Well, folks, welcome back to another episode of Speed Street. Goodness gracious, we had a lot that happened over the weekend. A lot in my life. Suddenly, I was an IndyCar participant again. What a wild story to tell. There's a lot of things that I think, this is why I have a podcast. My life is silly. So we're going to talk about a lot of the details of how I ended up there, how I got in the car, how it all came into play. We had two races that happened at Iowa. Two races that kind of sucked, let's be honest. I hate to say it because Iowa was such a good one. But we have a lot to talk about still. A lot of interesting penalties in race one. We had a strategy play, big-time strategy play in race two, and also one of the biggest crashes we've seen all year. An absolute wild one. Stingray was trying to circulate, and he ended up flying. So I don't know what happened, but he took to the sky, hit Alex Rossi. Alex Rossi ran out of fuel. Just worst-case scenario, so I'll explain kind of what went into that. But yeah, Chase, we have also two winners to interview. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode because we've got two winners. We're going to pack those in. Two winners to chat with. We're going to go through all of the whole weekend, how it played out, and our thoughts, and kind of how my situation came to play. We'll get to the winners' interviews, and then we will do some Toronto preview after the winners' interviews. We will get to the fact that I'm doing a bunch of racing this weekend as well, not in Toronto. A lot of people were like, "Oh, are you going to be in the Dale Coyne car now for Toronto?" Nope, I'm going NASCAR racing. So that's where I'm going. But there will be two new drivers in the Dale Coyne cars this weekend, I believe. At least one, because they announced one today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So yeah, a lot going on. Chase, you good, man? There was a lot that was happening in Iowa over the weekend. I think I told you guys on our group text that I might be racing. Then first race I ended up not racing, but the second race somehow we did. So how are we feeling?
What an amazing message to wake up to. Yeah, I'm on a plane. I'm going to Iowa to fill in. I'm just like, let's go. It's time to ride. So that's how we started the weekend off. Yeah, I followed along as closely as I could on Saturday night. Anytime we have an IndyCar race under the lights, I'm there, regardless if it's a race off pit road or not. Which this weekend was races off pit road. I am a fan of races off pit road. Yep. That's strategy.
A lot of strategy.
Just rolling the dice a little bit. So I enjoyed the races, even though maybe some of the drivers had some things to say about it, and we all know that there were some differences this year to Iowa, and I heard a good bit of people talking about how they're hoping to see next year that the track be a little bit more similar to what it's always been before. But I did successfully get a restaurant to put IndyCar on TV on Saturday. So that's a big success. Usually they'll be like, what? No. And I did that a lot.
We got booted off NBC
back in the day with
Yikes.
Right. Yeah, I got a restaurant to put CNBC on a television on a Saturday night. He's like, were you trying to get stock tips or something at the restaurant? I was like, exactly. I was like, I'm here for finance. This is big finance happening. Yeah, 100%. But doing that in turn, saw some people on social media also doing it at their bars and restaurants as well. So good move for IndyCar. Kind of started a movement. More IndyCar on TV at bars and restaurants. So that I don't know how often it happens outside of Indiana, but it's changing. Times are changing. And then Sunday decided to stream for the race, which was really cool getting to do that. I think I might do that a little bit more often, and just got to really be locked in. Had a lot of people come in, and a lot of NASCAR fans came to check it out. And I just, every week, man, just seeing more and more comments about these NASCAR fans coming to watch IndyCar, and they're loving it. So couldn't have been a better weekend, in my opinion. Couldn't have been a better weekend for the series, and seems like we're definitely doing something right. Had over 1 million people watching Mid-Ohio, hopefully that trend continues.
It won't because we were on CNBC, so that's definitely a bit of a shame. But yeah, there was a lot obviously that went on over the weekend that we won't talk about that made us so we were not on NBC. Quite a large world event that was taking place, so that is a bit of a shame. That IndyCar, if anything though, that would always happen to IndyCar. Like sadly, that's IndyCar's luck over the years. If we have a great TV window, Saturday night, Sunday, midday NBC races, nope, not anymore. So
we love hurdles.
That is, I hate to see that, but obviously you understand with a major event going on in the world, that the news must take priority, I guess. But anyway, we will get into the details of the weekend. I'll go through, I guess, the results from the races first of all, because I kind of want to just tell people how I ended up there and why what happened did happen, because there's a lot of opinions on certainly the Saturday race too. But obviously, race 1 was won by Scott McLaughlin, which I had no idea that he hadn't won on an oval yet. Honestly, I thought he had already won on an oval.
What?
That's kind of wild. But he was always going to be good there. You could see it in practice and qualifying. Pato O'Ward second. This podium is very predictable. I believe, what did I have? 2 of the 3? Did I get 2 of the 3? I think I had Pato and Scott. No, Pato and Joseph.
You had Herta, McLaughlin, and I want to say
I had Herta, Newgarden, and O'Ward. So I had 2 of the 3. So that was solid. You had Newgarden, but Colton let us down. No big deal. But yeah. So race 1, McLaughlin, Pato, Joseph, who started in the back. Really, really impressive drive from Joseph. Scott Dixon, Rinus VeeKay. Honestly, that's the best result that they've had all year. Really a great race for Rinus there. Happy for him. Santino Ferrucci was 6th. He's always in the top 10. He did a great job this weekend. Let's give him credit where credit's due. He even got penalized this race for jumping the start or a restart, and then still came back. So again, you got to have a little bit of luck to make that happen. I still think potentially one of the luckiest people, but also he drove it hard. He drove it well. And yeah, talented driver, as we've said before. Kyle Kirkwood 7th, Alexander Rossi 8th, Marcus Ericsson 9th, Marcus Armstrong 10th. Colton Herta was 11th after a half spin. He had kind of a wild spinning moment. We thought, I honestly, he was leading the beginning of the race, and I was feeling good about my picks. But obviously, they had a bit of an issue. They actually had a big issue with vibrations. Kind of a wild story I got to tell you there about Marcus Ericsson. I saw his hands before race 2, and they were in bad shape. So some crazy vibrations there. Nolan Siegel 12th, solid day for Nolan. Young fellow just trying to learn. Felix Rosenquist 13th, Kiffin Simpson 14th. Top 15 day for Kiffin Simpson. That's what you got to lock in all the time. Stingray Robb 15th, last car on the lead lap. I mean, that's one of the greatest circulation efforts of all time, I think, for Stingray. If he's the 15th, shout out him. This is kind of a funny story, but I was going to Charlotte last week. Stingray and I were on the same flight. And I'm sure Stingray has heard that I'm probably not, I'm not the biggest, let's be honest, I'm not the biggest supporter of Stingray being in the IndyCar series, only because of the history and stuff like that. But he kind of just gave me one of those nods, and I was like, yeah, this is where it's going to be. Like, this is all we got.
Was it like Sting?
No, just like, I mean, we're obviously not, we're not friends. I mean, his wife or girlfriend is actually a very nice person, and her father's actually great people. Like, I'm sure he's a nice kid. Like, let's be honest. But like, part of it is just like, if he was in sports cars, I would be a big fan of Stingray Robb. I'd be like, hey, you know what? Great work, little brother. Like, great work doing your thing. But tis what it is. He's in a great car, great team, and they're in the top 15 today. So me and Stingray had one of those nods at each other, like, yeah, I know I probably don't say the kindest things about you on the internet. I get it. I'm accepting that. But again, he's a nice kid, so we'll go with that. Nice.
Should have said, what you doing up here circulating in the sky,
yeah, he found the sky on race 2. Yikes, that was tough for him. Hated to see it. Glad he's all right. We'll talk about that. Glad he's all right. So Stingray Robb, 15th, last car on the lead lap. Graham Rahal obviously had a lot of issues. Catherine Legg was given a false penalty Catherine Legg was given a penalty for jumping the restart, and the officials came up to her afterwards and say that they got the wrong car. So that literally ruined Catherine's day. They gave her a penalty that should not have been given to her. So Catherine Legg finishing 17th is still pretty impressive. Will Power was 18th. Pietro Fittipaldi, 19th. Obviously, he got cleaned out by Will Power. Ed Carpenter, 20th, the 20 car in 20th. Linus Lundqvist, Christian Lundgaard, Alex Palou crashed. That was one of the most surprising things I've seen in 2 years. Alex Palou just making a mistake, crashing. Turns out we're all capable of doing something. So that was wild. Grosjean, obviously, he was involved in that first lap accident, which was such a shame to see. The first lap accident, that was a tough one, man. I hated it for David Malukas. He definitely just made a mistake. He finished 26th. Augustine Canapino, 27th. Jack Harvey, my friend, finished 25th after parking the car after 28 laps. He could not physically do the race any longer. So yeah, a lot went on from race 1. Before I get into race 2 results, obviously, let's talk a little bit about race 1. The penalties. So the series, I think we had talked about in the preseason a little bit about people jumping restarts. It was very prevalent at Iowa, very prevalent at the Indy 500 last year. Just people jumping out of line way too early and not getting penalized for it. So we as a group of drivers really wanted to push that effort to the stewards and be like, hey guys, we can't have people just jumping starts. It's just not, it's not fair. It's not safe. It's the whole thing. So they were really aggressive on that. The rule is you cannot pass or cannot jump out of line until you hear green, green, green from your spotter, or until the green flag waves. So if you pulled out of line early, Santino, everyone was like, oh, that might not have been a penalty, but it was technically just too early. When you come to the video and you look at it, it was a hair too early. And so that's a penalty. There were a couple other cars as well that got that penalty. Catherine as well, but she wasn't the right car, so that was kind of wild. Who
did they get it mixed up with, by the way? I'm trying to visualize.
They didn't say which car. It might have been one of the Shank cars because those are also pink. I'm not sure. But they said they got it mixed up. They admitted to their mistake to Catherine afterwards. But obviously, that doesn't change the results. So, bit of a wild one.
It doesn't, and it doesn't help the fact that there's a lot of people online that already talk about having a tough time differentiating who's who, right? I don't know if you've read a lot of those comments or if you've seen a lot of that, but for me, I definitely think that with them themselves getting confused on that, that's it definitely brings up the question, is there anything more to do to differentiate the cars?
I think it is what it is. You got to be on it. You got to make sure you make the right call at the right time. But they have a tough job. I mean, the stewards have the hardest job out there. So that's a tough one. But yeah, race 1, I mean, I was watching race 1, but I stopped in the middle because I had to immediately go get in Jack Harvey's race car to get fitted for the next race on Sunday. I already knew at that point that Jack was basically, I guess if let's save that for a second, but talk about other things for the race. Scott McLaughlin winning, very happy for him. Night race, love night races. We need so many more night races. It looks so much cooler in the night. IndyCar, even though the race was very not good, it was so much better to watch IndyCars at night. I feel like it was so cool, and it honestly felt 100 times better than the day. Dude, it's so hot in Iowa. It felt like you were going to die as soon as you were outside. So that was awesome. And we still saw some racing. So, the side-by-side action and the racing wasn't there, but you had guys like Joseph Newgarden going from the back to the front. And as we learned, Will Power tells us a little bit later how much time Joseph made up in the pits, how many spots he gained in pit lane. It's all a team effort. You had guys like Santino coming from a lap down back up to the top 10. So these things were happening because of the way the yellows fell, because of the way the activities that were going on in pit lane, the strategy side. But you could tell right out the gate when I was watching the race that there was 0 tire deg, so it was going to be a fuel race. And the funny thing about Iowa is it has not been a fuel race in at least as long as I can remember. There, you'd be pitting when the tires are bad, right? You'd get to lap, like last year, for example, or even the year before, you're like, we're probably going to need to pit around 55, 60 laps. Now, the car on fuel, you can go over 100 laps. If you save fuel, like Will Power, he went over 100 laps on one stint on a tank of fuel. So you can do that. But it hasn't been done in a long time at Iowa because you got to pit, for tires rather than fuel. So that was really interesting to see. But yeah, we had a couple of big mistakes. Will Power and Pietro Fittipaldi getting involved in an accident. The first lap crash, David Malukas literally just getting too low, getting on the apron. The drivers had not raced there yet on this new service, so there's a little bit to learn, but mistakes can be made. Christian Lundgaard did exactly the same thing as David Malukas, almost simultaneously. I would say after finally getting on the track myself to race, the visuals are a little bit different now with the repave. The white line on kind of separating the banked part of the track to the apron is, I would say, a little bit different than what we saw previously. So maybe that confused some of the drivers. But yeah, it's still just kind of a tough race to watch. But I didn't see half of it. So what did you think, Chase, of race 1? Like, you're watching a night race. Was it tough to watch on television? Because again, I have not seen the television version of it yet.
So, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, I was loosely watching the first race. I was watching on my phone, and then I went into a restaurant. We had a very busy Saturday with the family, and watching in the restaurant, obviously having no sound always is a kind of a limiting factor. I had the 45-second delayed captions on the TV.
Reading about the race.
I mean, from what I was
yeah.
Yeah. So from what I was doing, though, I mean, anytime I'm out and trying to keep up and follow along with a race, I'm usually like on my phone. I'll just kind of be watching, just kind of watching the live scoring on the app, on the IndyCar app, and then watching on TV loosely. Like, I did get to see the Pelot, spin, and that was nuts to me. But I just genuinely am one of those people that just love watching cars on track. And I've always been that way, regardless of what kind of race it is. It's just, it sucks you in. Like, for me at least, it just sucks me in. So I'm always going to be a little bit biased for almost any race I'm watching, to where I'm just like, I'm enjoying this, But I can definitely see for somebody that, wanting to watch intense battles. I mean, it looked like Scott just ran away with it. And that's huge, right? Because, like, you didn't even know that he didn't have an oval win. And I was aware that he didn't. So I knew how hungry he was for it. I loved his quote that he had after. He's like, I can now call myself an IndyCar driver, and I wasn't going to call myself an IndyCar driver until I won on an oval. So I thought that him getting that win, that's huge, obviously. Penske, him and Ryan Blaney, he was talking about Ryan, winning at NASCAR. Like, Penske is kind of the corn king.
Yep.
Kind of owns corn. So I thought that all together, just seeing his excitement was awesome. And then I didn't get to fully read what Pato talked about, but at the end of that race, I know that Pato was very vocal. And maybe you have a little bit more to say about that, about what he said, because I should have definitely done my homework on his exact quotes about that, but I kind of wanted to wait and see if you had heard what he had spoken about, and if you had any opinion on it after being able to race.
Well, I mean, I think we know that Pato he's very honest, right? I mean, it was not an exciting race. You couldn't use the top lane after a few laps. Starts and restarts. If you were very brave and you got to get up there and you were able to use it, I saw it used a couple times. Like, I used it at the start of race 2, but I mean, Pato was just honest. Like, that's what we appreciate. I mean, and honestly, thank you all to those who listened to the episode with Pato. I thought that was still one of our best shows, and it was really, really cool to have him on. We almost had him on again. But even still, like, he was never going to be able to make a move on Scott McLaughlin because you can't move off the bottom lane to try to generate a run. So the track becomes so narrow that you can't sneak the car up a little bit to maybe get some air to the right front side of the wing and then cut down to try to make a move. You can't use lane 2 to generate momentum. So it's physically impossible to pass, like when you're just one by one, unless someone makes a big mistake. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of race 1 too, because the leader caught the back of the pack and no one went anywhere. Like even the lap traffic, like the car in last place could not get passed by the leader. So it was very, very interesting to see and kind of sad. But let's get into the whole, we went over race 1 results, but let's get into the how and why of like why I ended up in the car in race 2. So on Friday, I'm watching the practice session, and again, I saw the Highline practice. And something you got to remember about the Highline practice: the cars that were all doing the Highline practice, which is everyone, it was a different compound of tire that they used for the Highline practice, because the Highline practice didn't actually look that bad. It looked kind of good, but it was a different tire too. So Firestone didn't have enough of the regular tire to, I guess, supply an extra set for everyone for the Highline practice, which again is understandable, but it kind of gave, I think, maybe a little bit of a false hope. And then you could see in the practice session that if anyone went a little bit wild, I mean, we saw like 4 spins in practice with no contact, which is wild. But I was definitely, I had put out a tweet even. I was like, man, it's a tough look when you can't run both lanes at Iowa. It's kind of sad. It made me a little sad inside. But it was still interesting to watch. So I will go kind of hour by hour. So I'm sitting Friday, I'm doing work. I actually was doing I was doing this like brain test for like SRO, because I'm doing the sports car stuff this week, and I'm doing like random stuff, like trying to get like credentials sorted out for next weekend. I got a text at Friday at 6:20 p.m. From Dale Coyne. Are you in Iowa? And I said I am not, but I can be. And he said, Jack is suffering with back and neck pain and may want you to drive. And so I kind of immediately was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Like I kind of wanted to text Jack to be like, hey, what's going on, brother? Like, Jack's one of my very close friends in this paddock. I don't know what's going on with him. I hate to hear that he's in pain. But you also, I don't want to take away a drive from my friend. Like, Jack worked really hard to get in that car for the races that he's in. And like, I don't want to be the guy unless it's like really necessary. And like, he's dying. Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, Dale, like, you really got to put me in over Jack. Like, this is Jack's car. This is Jack's ride. This is his job. So I kind of immediately started, because from then on, you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to get there? Like, I could have just driven, like, all right, I'm going to just put my stuff in my car and I'll drive 6 hours. I'll get there like Friday at midnight, something like that. But then I call around. I call my stepdad, Doug Bowles, and I'm like, hey, like, do you think there's anyone going on a plane, right? Like, look, we got to use your connections where possible, right? This is not. I'm very lucky to know some great people in this world. There's a lot of people. I was going to go over on a private jet on Saturday anyway with my friends, because our buddy Ryan has some plane hours and he was going to fly us over to see the race. So thankfully, hey, you know what? That's a bougie lifestyle. I'll accept it. Hand up. We were going to do that, but
you got to have big fun.
You got to do it sometimes. If you have friends that are able to make that happen for you, you know what? You thank them for that. So I called Dry Reinbold, like my guys at Dry Reinbold, and I'm like, hey, can I get my oval head pad? Like, just to make sure everything's easy. Like, you use a certain head pad for the ovals that are kind of like tuned to you. So I drive to the Dry Reinbold race shop. Chase, our team manager there, meets me. I get my oval head pad, and I bring it back home. And my stepdad calls me and says that Roger Penske is obviously going to Iowa in the morning with Mark Miles and Jonathan Gibson. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to, like, would he mind taking me there? And Roger said, absolutely, of course. Like, if you have a chance to drive, like, he wants to help. Wow. Roger, great guy. I really appreciate that.
How was that? Did y'all have a conversation? Like, what
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. So I text Dale, and again, I don't really know what's going on. Like, Dale's kind of a funny person to talk to sometimes. Like, I've known Dale for a long time. I like Dale a lot. He's just a good old fashioned racer. And a lot of his guys are great people. But I still don't really know. Like, I text Jack and I'm like, okay, like, should I be getting ready to race like tomorrow? Like, is this a Saturday night thing? And I'm kind of like trying to get a feel from Jack. Like, Jack says he's not feeling great. but obviously qualifying is the next day. There's no other practice. And so I'm committed already to going there, right? Like I'm on a 7:30 a.m. flight with Roger, straight to Iowa. So we're going to get there early. The garages don't even open until 11:30. But I'm going to get there no matter what, kind of ready to go, have all my stuff. And it's 10:30 at night. Like and again, Iowa's an hour before, but it's 10:36 p.m. Friday night, and I'm still up. I don't know. I'm watching some Netflix. I'm just hanging out because I don't really know what is going on. And Dale called me, and he's like, "Hey, like, I still don't know what's going to happen yet, but he's like, we're going to need you if we do need to make a change." So obviously, he's committed to Jack too, which is, of course, that's exactly how he should be. But we just don't know what's going to happen. So I was going to wait to hear from Jack in the morning. Like he had told me, he's like, "Hey man, like if I feel the same way in the morning, it's going to be tough." He's obviously getting worked on by IndyCar Medical. So I show up to the plane early in the morning. Roger Penske, beautiful plane, incredible opportunity there just to ride with Roger and Mark Miles. And honestly, guys, one thing I wanted to say from this conversation, I'm not going to tell everyone, what we're talking about and what's going on there, because I respect their business and their priorities. But if you don't think that Roger cares for this series in a high level way, I mean, you're just flat out wrong, and your opinions are wrong. Like, you could have an opinion, but Roger is fighting for this series so hard, and he is putting so much money and so much into it that I think some people are not appreciative enough of what he is doing. And of course, there was a scandal this year, but like, dude, that is not an intention. Like, it's still something that people will die on that hill of like, oh, cheaters, like. And I talked to Joseph and his wife about this thing, and like, people are being still so terrible to them, which I think is just absurd still. But they were penalized very aggressively for it because of that. But like, Roger cares about this series so much and the racetrack, and just kind of hearing what's going on and all the effort they're putting in, and just it made me feel good to know that I believe that the series is in good hands. I do. And again, I understand that people can think differently, but I guess I don't know how. Like, there's a lot of things in life where I'm just like, well, how can you possibly think that? Like, I'm literally hearing stuff.
People believe what they want to believe.
That's
at the
true.
End of the day.
But it's like, I'm listening. I'm not formulating opinion off of like random stuff. I have this podcast to try to tell you the truth from what I hear from like the real people in this game. And Roger is the leader. And like, all that he is doing to try to make this series, to try to take it to the moon, it is very evident. And again, you can choose not to believe it, but people are always jealous of success. Like, I'm jealous of success, right? And Roger Penske runs the most successful race team in North America, maybe even ever. But like, it's because he is a very smart person, and because all he wants to do is be successful no matter what it is, whether it's in business, whether it's in racing. And people have a problem with that because they're jealous of it. And I am jealous of it. But
I'm just going to say, I mean, for a person to believe this, I mean, I get people believe what they want to believe. Perception is free, whatever you want to call it. But the man literally he bought it.
To make it
better. He bought something. Yeah. Do you think that a business owner that buys a business wants that business to fail, or doesn't care about the money that they put into that investment? You're just off your rocker at that point, or you're just want to just
and again, that's fine. Like, people are hating people every day, and it's such a shame. And but I just as someone who also like this sport puts food on my table. This sport has been my entire life for forever, and I have a lot of respect for Roger. Obviously, I've never driven a Penske car, probably nor will I ever. But knowing the fact that he's he cares about our series, he cares about us as drivers and teams. I believe it was just an encouraging environment to be in, and I probably didn't deserve to be there, but I think it's just something positive to say about what our leadership group there, the people that are there. So anyway, that was the one thing I learned, and I got to ride over to the track, and I'm basically like, it's so early. Like I got there at like 8:30 in the morning. The garage, no one's there yet. So I text Alex Rossi, and I'm like, hey man, like, can I just hang out in your bus until the garage opens? So I've got my 2 bags, I've got all of my racing kit, and Alex is asleep. So I'm sitting there talking to some of the Hy-Vee folks, who are very nice folks. They were telling me about the event and kind of asking what's going on. Like, why are you here? Why am I in a golf shirt and shorts? Like I was very unbranded there because I didn't know if I was going to be driving for a race team or not. So eventually Alex is like, oh, hey, because I had told him in a text, I was like, hey man, just got here, might race today, but I need kind of some place to chill out of the heat, if you don't mind. And so thankfully Alex had just woken up and he let me in his bus to sit, and we were kind of going through a few things. Alex helped me out a little bit with some knowledge about the track, and I was like, hey man, like I don't know yet if I'm going to do anything today, not even sure. And he's like, well, maybe Sunday. And I was like, yeah, maybe Sunday. I don't know. So eventually Alex and I just kind of chat there and sit and talk. And Alex actually let me know a lot of really interesting information about his own life, his own career. Like I was like, hey man, like what are our options for next year? Which I will not tell any of you guys because this is a friend to friend conversation. But then we watch the movie Lift on Netflix. We're just watching a Kevin Hart film. So we sat there.
How was
Great
it?
film,
What would you
honestly.
rate it?
I hope there's 14 minutes left, and I got to watch the end of it. But that's how we spent the morning. Alex's wife, and myself, we were enjoying some coffees, watching Netflix movies in the Iowa Speedway garage area. So we did that, and I still didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. I was like, the garage is opening at 11:30. I still haven't heard anything from Dale. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm just going to walk over there. I'm going to walk over to the team. I'm going to go get my seat. My seat was in the Shank trailer, Meyer Shank Racing. They have been keeping my seat in their trailer, thankfully, just because they're friends of mine. And I talked to a couple of the guys on the team, and they're like, hey, so are you driving for us today? I'm like, I don't know. So like, I didn't know. But I think a lot of them had seen how much Jack was struggling. And, you know, I feel bad for Jack, man. The guy was in so much pain. I didn't even see Jack for a while, but we had kind of gone through that morning evaluating scenarios. We're like, okay, what happens? Like we at one point, we had devised a scenario. It's like, well, what if I qualified the car and Jack started the race, but then I got in the car in the middle of the race, like, or whenever he felt like he couldn't do it anymore, like as a relief driver, right? Like normally we've seen things like that happen before in NASCAR, maybe in IndyCar in the past, because like the car needed points, and maybe that would be a good practice for me for the next day if that was the case. Turns out you can't do that. But the funny thing is,
I was taken away by that too. I thought that like that would be the typical standard where like you could as long as he starts, you could. So why is that? Like, is it like what's the rule state and like going through that, like what did you learn, or did you already know?
We just thought about all this because we were trying to evaluate every possible scenario. But yeah, it's no longer allowed to have a relief driver, I guess, for safety reasons or for something, which I guess I understand. But the funny thing is I actually, like, I got into Jack's car. Everything is perfect. Like, we're the same size. Like, his seat, his pedal positions. Wow. Like, I didn't need a single change. I was like, guys, I can drive like this if you want. Like, if you want me to get in Jack's seat, everything, like, I'll drive it like that. And that's so rare. Like, when I got into Simon Pagenaud's car, obviously we're in a little bit different last year. We're a little bit different size, of course. But like I definitely needed to make some pedal adjustments to steering, stuff like that. But I literally could have got in Jack's seat and driven in the middle of the race. So we evaluated that option. But Jack decided that he really wanted to qualify. He felt a little bit better than the day before. And he wanted to make an attempt, and then if he still felt bad afterwards, maybe make the choice to get out, which he did. But that then made it a problem because there was no opportunity for me to get on track before the race. So Jack had qualified. He did a great job. They made him run 3 times because of the hybrid issues. The hybrid wasn't working on several of the runs. They made other people rerun. I've never seen that before, honestly. I can't believe in a qualifying session we just got to let cars go out again and just do another run. That was crazy for me. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
But it then became like I had got into Jack's car after qualifying because Jack was not feeling good. He was definitely not happy, and he was like, I can't race. So I put on Jack's suit. I get in the car. We put my seat in. And it's a night race, so we had a little bit of time. But Dale had then, like, while I'm in the car, like getting my seat fit, Dale comes up. He's like, IndyCar will not let you race. And I was like, that's crazy. But I understand the reason why. I guess the rule is that I have to have some laps or a special session. And
is this just for the hybrid, by the way? Is it because of the new car?
Just in general. Like you can't get in and just go racing, which is a real... Again, a lot of people came after IndyCar on the internet, and you can't go after IndyCar because they were just following their own rule book, right? So this is not their fault.
Yeah.
But like they would have tried to give me a special session, like literally let me go out for 5-10 minutes, but the concert was going on before the race, right? So the track was completely blocked off, and they weren't able to let me do anything. But the car needs to get points. So if the car doesn't start, it only gets half the points. But if the car does start, then it gets full points, even if you finish last or whatever it is. So there's a couple ways to think about this. There is also a rule where the abandonment of procedures rule. Like, technically, you can do what you want at any time. Technically, there's like the abandonment of procedures rule. Like, yes, there are rules, but you can also abandon the rules if you need to, right? But I guess from my own perspective, obviously selfishly, I really wanted to get in because I knew I could help the team just at least do the whole race or get in there and learn for Sunday.
Yeah.
But sadly, Jack had to start the race because they needed whatever points they could get. And I feel sad that it went down the way it did. And maybe, I can't, throw too much shade on IndyCar because, we don't need to. Like, it happened. But I have enough experience at that track to know. I mean, yes, it's a new surface. Yes, the hybrid is new to me. But my third lap, when I did the special session the next day, my third lap was an 18.3, which is like, I don't know what the fastest lap of the race was in the race on Saturday. Let me look it up real quick. But like, I know it was already the race pace. So Iowa fastest lap of race 1, 2024. So let's just look at it real quick. So
I'm very interested. I'm locked in to know. I'm also interested. So you said 18.1.
Let's see. Fastest lap. So my fastest lap on the third lap of practice with full tank of fuel was 18.34. Scott McLaughlin's fastest lap was 18.39. So
So you got the fastest lap.
I didn't have the fastest lap, but I'm just saying that was my third or fourth lap in the car. Was the exact same pace as what these guys were doing in the race. So like, I'm not saying that I'm completely out of it, but like, I don't like. I was going to start last anyway, so
you're not a noob.
Let me just run around for 10 laps and I'll figure it out. Like the problem is there is always a risk, right? I could be stupid. I don't think I am, but like you could go out and maybe cause a yellow, and then now I'm affecting the race or whatever. But like I think that there is a case by case scenario where you can evaluate that. And again, I have my own opinion because I wanted to do something for the team. I wanted to be able to help. They had put in so much work that day trying to just either maybe get me ready or maybe not. Honda was really helpful and like trying to, get me into the systems as well. They'd gone over the steering wheel with me and everything. But I was in the car thinking I was going to race, and then I was out. And then poor Jack, he did about. So the interesting thing about Jack is like he started the race. Three people crashed right out the gate, so that's extra points, right? So thankfully he did enough laps to get, get those guys. And then he parked. And then in the middle of the race, they were like, all right, Jack can't race tomorrow. So they're going to try to get me a special session, a little session on Sunday. So yeah, again, you can't come after IndyCar for that. Obviously everyone can have their opinion. IndyCar followed the rules, which I respect. And I respect the people making the decision. I just wish for Jack's sake, and for the team's sake, that, it was essentially a starting park car, which we don't want to see in IndyCar, right? Like that's a bit of a shame. So that's really kind of how Saturday played out. I was told by Dale that I was in the car racing, then IndyCar. I guess he then went to IndyCar and they then said no because of the rule book, which is fair. But yeah, there was definitely a bit of confusion going on. And so once we were kind of in the middle of the race on Saturday, I was like, all right, I gotta get ready to race on Sunday. So that's kind of how that whole situation played out. So that's how Saturday went. It was kind of a weird just day overall. I was trying to hydrate, like as if I was going to race. And then like at one point, like I told Alex Rossi that I was racing and then I wasn't. And then and then Alex, thankfully, like I didn't have a hotel or anything. Alex Rossi let me sleep on his couch that night, Saturday night. Like, so after the race, Alex Rossi let me sleep on his couch in his motorhome. I've obviously slept on plenty of Alex Rossi's couches before. But pretty funny because like I didn't have a hotel, didn't have a rental car, didn't have anything. I was not getting paid to be there at all. Like me on Sunday, racing, I make $0. I just, I'm trying to not lose anything by being there. So Alex, thankfully, let me stay there. The Eric Church concert played wildly late into the night. It's like 11:30 and they're still banging music out there. But then I realized I got to do a session in the morning. So yeah, there's my Saturday. That was kind of how it all went. That's how it went through.
No, I love this, like how I think the big takeaway from it is the last minuteness, right? About how these things come together so fast. I feel like people have this perception of like these things are planned and everything is chaos. Is very methodical. It's like no, pure chaos, last minute calls, and you got to figure it out like within an hour how you're going to make these things happen. So big. I just say, if anything, like that's why all respect goes to drivers and to you. I mean, obviously for having a piece, that puzzle together like that. I mean, it always works out though.
Yeah. So anyway, so obviously, I wake up Sunday and I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have a bit of a tough road in front of me here. I've never driven the hybrid, never even sat in a hybrid. Like that's obviously the same car, but never driven the hybrid. So trying to figure out what I need there. Some of the guys on the 18 crew are some of the guys that were at Coin when I was there my rookie year, which is hilarious. Also, same color scheme as my rookie year with Dale Coin Racing, black, green, and white, which is hilarious. But I got to give Catherine a lot of credit too. I'll speak to this a little bit later, but Catherine did a great job on Saturday, and she did a great job on Sunday. And I'm going to tell you why, because I get in the car for that practice session on Friday or Sunday morning, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn here what we got going on. It's going to be a little bit faster. The surface is quick. And man, we went out on full tanks, right? So the car is the heaviest it can be, full tanks, like race fuel. And I'm driving, I'm pounding laps. Yeah. I'm like, man, this is hard. Like these cars, like the Indy 500.
What was hard? Yeah. What was hard about it? Like what is the big differences?
Like the Indy 500 itself, right, is not physically the hardest race. Like your heart rate's high the whole time because you're going so fast, your brain is firing. The actual physical load in your arms is like a third of what the load is at Iowa. Because Iowa, you have so much downforce, so much G load. And dude, we're doing 18 second lap. The pole speed was the track record 17.1, like 17.0. That is an insane load. Like that's 4.5 Gs.
It's a lightning bolt.
The steering in the car is 115 pounds heavier, but if the car is so much heavier, that it makes the steering even heavier. So I'm driving. I'm like, man, this is like, I have not driven a real IndyCar race of physical nature since St. Louis of last year, right? And I train every day in the gym. We're working every day to be ready. But there's nothing like race fitness. These guys are halfway through the season. They've all been driving, except for Catherine. And this is where I would say I give Catherine a lot of credit for doing both these races, making no mistakes. Hey, power to the ladies out there. Catherine is able to do it. She did it well. She made no mistakes. She was fast in both races. And after feeling how difficult that was, I'm like, huge shout out to Catherine for being like strong enough, for being ready to do it.
Forearms on 100.
I mean, it is so hard to drive these cars physically at Iowa. It's insane. I can't even describe it to you. And I train every single day, but you also have to be race fit and race ready. And Catherine, again, that's only her second race since Indy too. Now she got to test at Milwaukee. She got to test at Iowa. She's done some testing, so a little bit more time than I have. But man, kudos to Catherine for just being mistake free and doing good stuff out there. All right,
killing the game. So what would you say like the different like with the hybrid now? You finally gotten to drive the hybrid. Like, do you not notice much of a difference at all? Is there a huge difference?
The car is heavier. The hybrid boost itself, like I was trying to use it, almost impossible to feel. It's such a short like boost that I was like, oh, like
yeah.
I'm trying to like equate it to like a push to pass feel, but it's like a quarter or like a third of the push to pass feel, because the push to pass feel is big, like it's a big boost. But that's just my own personal opinion. Like I was told that if you used the hybrid maximally efficient on one lap, it would gain you 0.06 on a lap, which is not a lot. It's not a lot at all. Like maybe in qualifying, yes, that'll move you up a spot, but 0.06 if you use the hybrid to maximum efficiency on one lap, that's not a lot. So, but again, I had to get used to it. So then I'm going racing. I'm trying to, put a visor strip on my helmet, like eventually got a drink tube in it by the time I'm on the grid. But I got to give the Dale Coyne guys a lot of credit. They were very helpful in getting me into it. They've obviously had a lot of different drivers in their cars this year, so they are familiar with it. But there's a lot of really talented people in that group. And the car was good. Like the car definitely was their short oval car, which I think we've seen in the past. You've seen David Malukas on the podium with it at St. Louis. Definitely a strong short oval car. And so we went into it just thinking, hey, we're going to take this one stint at a time. We're going to figure it out. And we're going to try to get some points out of it. So I'm going into the race, and honestly, one of the funniest moments of the whole day was, and also, real quick, they didn't have a cool shirt system either. So the heat is a real challenge. So for Catherine and I, no cool shirts either. Penske, like even Will Power was talking about how the cool shirt helped him. Like we don't have a cool shirt system in that car. They don't have one yet. So.
You lost like 20 pounds,
not quite, but I guess I was a little bit like, oh, yikes, this is going to be tough because it's so hot for day two. And the cool shirt's a really helpful thing. Like you see almost the whole grid has it now. I think McLaren still bans their drivers from using it, but yeah, it's there's a lot that I was just like, all right, man, this is going to be, I have not driven anything at IndyCar since Indy. I've been working hard, but I have not been in an IndyCar, and everyone's, it's going to be a challenge. So I show up to the driver intro stage, and I think half the drivers still had no idea that Jack wasn't racing. And so like I walk up there in a race suit, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Look, I get it. I don't know what I'm doing here either. I'll see you guys later. I'm in the race now." And they're like, "I have no idea why." Like it's a crazy moment to kind of see what happens. And yeah, went out there and so we get into the race. So let's talk about it. I know we've spent a ton of time, just kind of telling you how it went. And we're going to get, I guess, before we get to my race, should we go through the results just to read? Because we haven't read through the results of race 2 yet. You think we should, let's now, we've covered race 1. We're now getting into race 2. Let's go through the results of race 2 first off, and I'll tell you how it played out.
Let's talk about it.
Obviously, Will Power is the winner. Will Power started in the back too. Like it was funny because even I talked to Will, and I was like, "Man, what are we gonna do?" He's like, "I I have no idea. He's like, I hope I end up there. It was kind of funny. Will Power, Alex Palou finishing second. Huge bounce back. Scott McLaughlin, big points weekend. Big points weekend for Scott on the podium. Scott Dixon, fourth. Colton Herta, fifth. Pato Award, sixth. Joseph Newgarden, seventh. Again, another great drive from the back. Graham Rahal, eighth. Great run for them. Renus VK, ninth. That team, huge boost for them. 2 top 10s. I ran in front of Renus for like half a stint before my engine exploded. So it was kind of interesting to see what was going on there. Grosjean 10th. Great event. Great race for Grosjean after a disappointing first one.
Bromon.
Santino Ferrucci, no more top 10s, finished 11th. But yeah, still good for them. Linus Lundqvist, 12th, probably helpful for him. David Malukas, 13th. Good rebound after a tough first race. Nolan Siegel, 14th, last car on the lead lap. Alexander Rossi, 15th. Kyle Kirkwood, 16th. Christian Lundgaard, 17th. Kiffin Simpson, 18th. Marcus Armstrong, Pietro Fittipaldi, Stingray Robb, Ed Carpenter, Marcus Ericsson, Catherine Legg, Augustine Canapino, Felix Rosenquist, and me. I finished dead last. That was me. I finished last. Shout out
Congrats.
Me finishing last.
You were there.
We were there. But yeah, so the race, it was going to be hot. I could tell. But I'll kind of go into because like I obviously did about half the race, maybe not even half, but about half the race. So I'll go into kind of what we started with. I wasn't going to wait around. I'm starting last. I knew I didn't want to be the last car that the leaders catch, and then I'm just fighting off the leaders to try to stay on the lead lap. So,
right,
I use my brain. I'm going straight to the high line, even though I know I have never been up there ever on this new surface. No idea what's going on.
The danger zone.
Passed like 4 cars in one lap because I was like, yep, now we're talking. We are so back past Marcus Ericsson. And he got me back because I wanted to try to get to the bottom side, but the bottom side stacked. I posted a clip about it. The bottom side is the ideal line. It is. But I got to the bottom and I got stacked up big. So Marcus Ericsson sadly got back by me. So after like the first 2 laps, it just kind of settled it. It was Ericsson, Armstrong, and me. And I had Kiffin Simpson behind me. And I noticed that like our car, I think, is very good. Like I'm able to run right up behind Marcus Armstrong. And like he's in a Ganassi car. I'm like, well, I think I'm faster than these guys, but you can't pass. And I'm messing around with the hybrid. I'm trying to use the boost and it does nothing. Like, I mean, it does a little bit, but it's not enough to like make a big run.
You got to have the room
and again,
too,
like,
right?
I wasn't going to go high early to try to make a move because I'm there to get points too. And I had already made some progress passing like four cars or so. And I'm like, all right, we're up on the day. Let's maybe get through this stint. And all it was after a while, we got into a fuel save mode. I knew that we went to a pretty lean map to start saving fuel. We actually should have started saving fuel much earlier. I think we all realized a little bit too late that everyone is just saving fuel. There's nothing happening but fuel save.
Yeah.
So we start saving, and we just drive around. And I'm like, man, it's physically, even just driving around physically, man, it was hard. Like the steering is so heavy that you're like using your elbow to brace on the right side, top of the wheel. And again, for me, not having done a race, not even the day before, it's definitely a bit of a surprise for me, but was feeling good, just kind of adjusting myself, and we make a pit stop. I'm like, all right, let's get into the sequence here. Let's figure it out. I haven't attacked the pit lane at all yet, so like it was a bit sketchy for me on the brakes. Their brakes have, I think the braking with the hybrid is a little bit different than what I'm used to. The brakes, that was like the first time I was able to hit the brakes hard was like under green, trying to pit like under like green flag conditions. Brakes feel a little bit different. They feel the car's heavier, so maybe it's a little bit more difficult of a brake zone. Pit, and sadly we didn't get the right front on. So so we had to make sure we got the gun back around. Long first pit stop, and that pretty much killed us. Which again, these things happen, man. Like I kind of figured we could have. Yeah, like we could have come back from that, but it was definitely a long stop. We went a lap down. And so I got back out on track, kind of figuring a few things out. Car's heavy again. I slotted into traffic somewhere like ahead of Kirkwood or something like that. And then it went yellow. So I'm like, all right, we got the wave by, so that was good. So we got the wave by. We were on our way to hopefully getting, our lap back. Like, let's say we got the wave by and we get a lucky yellow somewhere and we get our lap back. But on that restart, it was actually quite fun. Passed a couple cars on that restart. Was having a great time. Was ahead of Renus and kind of slotted in behind Malukas. And was feeling good. Like, was holding Renus back. Was staying right up with the Shank guys. We kind of got right back into fuel saving mode because we wanted to make sure we could figure out our lap back at some point. And then I'm again, I noticed the restart was pretty good. I actually had a good race. Like, I will say respect to Santino again, because I had passed him and he had passed me back, but then we kind of were battling side by side. And again, sometimes that doesn't go well, but I think maybe there's a little bit more mutual respect building between us. I don't know, because we were able to do that.
I wanted to talk about that, man. So big moment of the race for me, I would say, like, one of the most impressive moments watching it was, and I don't know if you've got to see it yet, but it was with Santino, and it's just his ability. Now, after hearing you talk about just how much harder it is with the load that you have, and I mean, for anybody listening to this that maybe is new to the show or new to IndyCar in general, like, there's no power steering in there. So that just adds even more to just the respect level of IndyCar drivers. But to watch Santino, there was a moment where it was him and Kirkwood running side by side like that. And he was able to hold that car through two turns right there at the same, I mean, tire to tire, dude. And then finally you see Santino, he gets a little rub, and he backs off. So it's like you get to that point where it's like, okay, this is getting a little too close for comfort. But just hearing you talk about it, and with me watching and seeing what I saw, that right there made me just be like, this dude is a freak of nature.
Yeah, he's brave, without a doubt. And his guys are behind him. Yeah. So, like, there's definitely credit to where credit's due. Raced him fine. Like, I passed him back. He passed me then on the restart. But there were a couple cars that were able to go side by side for a little while, and I was like, I think that's good. But again, in my mind too, I have to, as a substitute driver, you can't, like, worst case scenario, you try to make a move that doesn't go well and you put the thing in a bad spot, or you lose positions that you've gained. And there's a bit, like, again, you always want to go for broke and just let it rip. And that was me at the start. Like, that was me trying to just get after it. But there's also a bit of reasonableness that you have to have, because a team, sadly, I don't get to do this full time. So I can't just be like, I'm going to go and just let everything out and just let it rip. I can't do that, because, like, then I'm not. Yeah. Then you get a terrible. Then it goes bad.
You got to monitor that risk.
Yeah, got to kind of monitor a little bit of everything. And I knew we had a long race to go still, so I'm like, okay, we still got to get on the lead lap, right? Like, I'm not even on the lead lap at this point, but we're fighting these guys off. We have enough pace to run with these guys. We have enough pace to run with the people that run in the top 10. Like, the car was good, and then all of a sudden I'm coming out of 4, and I hear a pop. And I lose power, and Renus passes me, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? And then coming out of 2, I'm still on the power, and the engine just kind of goes boom, and I'm losing power. So thankfully, I got out of the way. I almost got in a bad spot in front of Linus Lundqvist because I was trying to get low, get down to the pit lane, but I had zero power. So sadly, that was it for us. Not really sure what happened. Just some sort of mechanical issue. Like, when we got in, I think there was a hole in the headers or something like that. So that was just a shame. I was very sad because, again, the emotional side for me is very difficult, because I obviously know I'm not at the beginning of my IndyCar Series career. Like, I so badly want to be able to compete, at the front, compete for wins in the IndyCar Series, which I believe I can do. I've always believed that. But, to get in and immediately just kind of pass cars, and cars that I know, like, Marcus Ericsson's been very good. There's a lot of cars that have been very, very good all year long. Like, I know what I'm doing. But with, when that opportunity immediately goes away, it's really hard. It's like, that might be my only shot the rest of this year, and something happens, right? Yeah. You're always just like, it's such a difficult sport because these things happen all the time, right? But like if you have one shot to do it, and with that shot something happens, you can never get it back. And so it's really difficult because I enjoyed driving for that team. I enjoyed driving the car. I think they gave me a good car, and they gave Catherine a great car too. But yeah, so basically, show up and that, putting all the effort in that we did. I always like to tell people, be honest with you, like I don't make any money doing that. I if anything, end up with less money. But that's just kind of how the sport is, sadly. Baby. I would say on other substitute situations, I have been paid, but obviously the Dale Coyne Racing team, they don't have the budget that other teams have. Like, I'm not expecting Dale to be, paying me to do that. Do I believe that a driver that steps in for a race should get paid? 1,000,000%. We're doing a ton of work to go out there and hopefully get a result for the team. But again, $0 come to me, which I understand, right? I didn't make any money my rookie year. I didn't make any money my rookie year with Dale Coyne Racing. So I get it. But I appreciate Dale for calling me. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate him for calling me. I enjoyed working with the crew there. Great people, some great people there who love going racing. So the rest of the race, we watched. I watched a lot of the rest of the race. Could see that it maybe wasn't the most exciting race in the world. But let's talk about the last lap crash, because really that's all that people cared about. That was crazy. What was your reaction when you saw a car flying through the sky?
I actually am working on a clip right now about that has my reaction. My reaction was recorded live. I immediately, you didn't get to see the full thing until the replay came, but just it went from, checkered flag. You see the guys pass by, they're talking about Will Power, talking about how he hasn't won since Pocono 2019 on an oval. And the next thing you know, you're looking and you just see a car. They cut to a car upside down. So I'm immediately just like, what just happened? I'm freaking out. And then into frame comes sliding Kirkwood, Carpenter, and then you just see tire and halo. Straight tire and halo. I'm immediately just like, holy, because you don't know what is about to happen when you see a tire go into a halo. Now, with this, I didn't even know it was Stingray Rob when he was upside down. So I'm immediately just probably like, okay, well, I don't know how high he launched or what happened. Here? Maybe I'm thinking he just had like a little tumble and, maybe just a kind of a solid little flip there and just was skidding down and he's just upside down, just riding it out. No. You get full Tony Hawk Pro Skater to launch into the sky.
I think.
Dude, he kickflipped the IndyCar. And I mean, that right there alone, like, I'm glad he was okay. I loved the shot. I waited before I said anything or posted anything. I waited to see them thumbs, dude. That hanging in the Louvre. That is Stingray. That was an ultimate moment from Stingray when you just you don't see anything but hands and thumbs, dude. If you see that, like, it's a go. And at that moment, I was just like, dude's got a little bit of dog in him. Like, look at it.
So what had happened there is, and I talked to Alex Rossi after this because I actually finished watching the race essentially in Alex Rossi's bus because that's where all my friends were, and that's where the party was. That's where the party was after the race. But yeah, I guess Alex had got short filled on fuel, which is the ultimate nightmare. I mean, Alex was having to save fuel, trying to make it to the end. And he didn't make it. So you watch the onboard, and Alex is trying to make it, but you can tell that when he accelerates out of that corner, the engine's dead. Like, he's got no fuel. And as a driver, you're kind of helpless because you want to immediately get out of the way, but you got to process everything really quickly. And Stingray, for example, like, let me tell you, it's so, the steering is so heavy in the cars that at the end of the race, you might not actually be able to make the quick move that you hope that you need to make because you're still, your hands almost get frozen into a position of like wrestling this car to the exit. And I don't know if, I don't think you can blame anyone for this because it's a worst case scenario. Alex runs out of fuel. Stingray's like, oh crap. And you saw how sketchy it was for cars exiting too. Like Ed Carpenter and Kyle Kirkwood just flat out spun because they got off the throttle. So like that, so Stingray wants to avoid that. And so it's all, this is not Stingray's fault. I don't think it's Alex's fault because his car was just dead in the water. It's just racing is hard, and it happens like this.
You have milliseconds, and so, right? But I mean, like,
and Stingray almost got by, but again, you saw how difficult it was for the cars behind him. Like, two cars just flat out spun because they got off the throttle, right? And again, I think this is also a little bit because of the hybrid, because again, when you get off the throttle, the regen happens, and maybe it's a little bit snappier than you think. And because I have not seen cars just kind of spin like that recently. Usually cars are able to avoid things, I guess, a little bit better. But we saw both Ed and Kyle Kirkwood just flat out spin. Maybe that's a little bit of the rear weight in the hybrid, there's more force in the rear if you kind of do a bit of a sudden rotation of the car. But yeah, to see Stingray,
and that was coming out of three, right?
Coming out of turn two. So to see that was crazy. I hated it for Stingray. Hate to see anyone go upside down, but also Kyle Kirkwood. It shows how hot it is. Kyle Kirkwood was trapped in that car, right? So Kyle Kirkwood being trapped in that car, that's ultimate nightmare. It's the worst case scenario. I cannot explain to you how hot it is when the car stops like that. And you've got an engine on top of you and your car is sitting there. It's like a sauna baking you and you can't get out. Like the worst case scenario. It's so hot in these cars. It's absurd. And I felt really bad for him because like, he's not asking the medical team like, hey, I'm injured. It's like, dude, I'm going to be injured if I don't get out of this car because I'm just going to pass out. So
I was scared because like I saw him trying to get out of the car. Like his helmet was popping up to the left side. And I'm like, oh my God, like, is he going to be able to get out? Like what because I just don't know what's going to happen. But I can only imagine. I wouldn't even factor in the heat part of it in there. So that's crazy.
So that was wild to see. Difficult. Just hate to see it. But yeah, made for a crazy highlight clip. Glad Stingray's all right. Glad everyone's okay.
Shout out to the safety team as well.
Yeah, they do bust their butts. I mean, the safety team are a very qualified group of people. And man, can you imagine what they have to evaluate when they see a car upside down, a car on top of another dude, one dude on top of another dude, like, all kinds of stuff. Like it was crazy to see that scene of just chaos. And they immediately have to be like, boom, here we go, fix this, try to save everyone.
Working under pressure.
So, got to give them credit for what they do. Incredible people. So that was what a race too. Not the most exciting thing in the world. Strategy won the race, right? We have Will Power, another Penske dominant weekend, but my gosh, we didn't see Joseph win, which is kind of crazy. I still believe that when I saw Joseph's qualifying results, I just could not believe that we were at Iowa and Joseph's like starting near the back. Like it was just,
it's kind of concerning. Wild. Like
no,
to
it's
me,
cool. Actually, I think it's great.
You just don't expect
I think it was great.
Yeah, I bet. But I mean, for fans and for Joseph himself, I mean, it's like, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the way the year's been or the adversity. But like, I think for me, it's like, what does this say about him? And maybe is it an issue with this new car, the new engine in the car? Like, is that, you say it doesn't make that much of a difference now that you've gotten to actually drive it. You've kind of felt it for yourself, but that's just your perception of it maybe. And I don't know, but like I was a little concerned. I'm not going to lie because when he finished on podium in race one, I'm like, oh, there's no issues here. I guess just maybe had a bad race, had some bad stops. I didn't really
dig great race.
Deep into it.
He started at the back. Qualifying was bad. So it's not a new engine, so it's just the hybrid element introduced to the engine.
The component, the new component in the engine. That attaches.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, maybe it's next year we show up and Joseph figures it out. Like I think you'll learn from. I tried to ask this question to Will Power, so you guys will learn a little bit after our interview with Scott McLaughlin too. Will Power's got a great. I just asked him, what do you think it is with Joseph? And I do believe maybe next year we show up and he's back to dominance. I don't know, but he still is a racer. He had a bad qualifying day, terrible qualifying day. Couldn't believe how bad it was, but still he finds his way to the podium. So it's, Joseph's still very good at Iowa. But yeah, we'll be curious to see how he bounces back next year. So yeah.
And we got more ovals coming up this year too. So that's what I'm going to be looking at, is just to see how that progression takes place for him, kind of a king of the ovals. Gotta watch the throne.
Again, overall, like, really just got to give credit to Catherine Legg. I think because of how difficult it is to drive these cars now, and a lot of the drivers saying how crazy it is, and a lot of people using cool suits, and even Catherine without the cool suit. Hey, that's a tough woman right there. That's someone who I got to give a lot of credit to. It was cool to be teammates with her. But thankful to the Dale Coyne Racing team. I don't know now what my the rest of my IndyCar year looks like. I'm glad I got to do a race. I felt it just felt good to get dicey again. You know what I mean? Get out there with the boys and pass some people, do some crazy stuff. Yeah. Sleep on Alex Rossi's couch. And then let me tell you real quick before we get to our interviews, after the race on Sunday, Post Malone. We're out there, Post Malone concert.
How was it?
It was hotter than the surface of the sun out there. And we're out, I walk out, we have a nice little time in Alex's bus. So we're sitting there in the bus, me, Alex, Joseph Newgarden, Joseph's wife, Alex's wife, a couple of my buddies, and we're all just, I'm having a couple cocktails. Alex having a couple cocktails. Joseph is having a LaCroix, obviously. So he's having a LaCroix. He's got
Alex
dad
LaCroix.
earplugs in. He's kind of doing his things. Wearing sandals.
Jorts,
not even no jorts.
belt.
No, just very like athleisure dad. You know what I mean? Like athleisure dad mode.
No OtterBox on the belt.
No
loop.
OtterBox.
He's got to step his game
he
up.
He needed
then.
like a fishing hat on. You know what I mean? But he didn't have one of those.
Bucket hat for the win.
So we're having, we're having a nice time. I'm enjoying myself. And it felt good because I think when and this is silly, but like when I actually get to race, I feel like I'm more a part of the community. Like when I don't race, I just feel sad and that I've missed out. You know what I mean? I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
But I was like,
I'm the same way when I'm away from a track.
But I was like, boys, I got to go out there at least and dice it up. You know what I mean? I passed some people, did some stuff. The thing blew up. It happens. But it was just nice to be like, and I was still super sore and I burnt a bunch. Still in an hour and 20 minutes, you'd be surprised how many calories you burned. So I was like, I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to have a cocktail. And we went out to Post Malone. And the fact that we got Joseph Newgarden and Alex Rossi to get out there for Post Malone, saw Linus Lundqvist out there. Even Will Power joined us to watch Post Malone. Yeah. We're out there jamming. Yeah,
I saw the photos.
Will Power was out
fun.
there. It was. I got to give the Hy-Vee folks and everyone who was out there, dude, they were on it. They were passing out waters and Gatorades like every 2 minutes. Cold waters and cold Gatorades. Like these guys were on it. They were helping us, making sure everyone was alive, making sure no one passed out, making sure no one was going down onto the ground. Scott McLaughlin was out there too, having a couple bevies. Really enjoy. We know Scotty's out there with a couple bevies. Yeah, for sure. The mountains were extra blue for Scott. and I got Alex started spraying people with bottles of water, so I'm soaked. By the time we got to leave, I got to get on this plane. Thankfully, hey, thanks to my friend Ryan for getting us a private plane home. Alex Rossi and I, me and the boys, and their associated wives, were on the plane with us home. I had no shirts to wear. I didn't even bring enough clothes. I didn't get a team shirt. I didn't get any Dale Coyne Racing team shirts. Like I didn't even get a hat. I didn't get a hat or team shirt, so I didn't have anything new clothes to wear. So
you should have hit the Loves up across the street, man. That's like the only thing there. It's water tower.
I wish I would have got an extra
Loves.
shirt to wear. That would have been nice to wear home. A little Dale Coyne polo to add to my collection. So Alex gave me a McLaren shirt, a FAF McLaren sports car shirt. So now I'm walking out of the track in a McLaren shirt, looking like I was another signing of a recent, McLaren contract signing. Which is probably impossible. But it was very funny. I wore a McLaren shirt home. We had a nice flight. We went to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse when we got back to Indy. Hey, shout out them. We went there. I had not been there in a long time. A big group of us. Colton Erda even joined us. They locked the doors on Colton. They wouldn't let him in because we were apparently there at like 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Sunday, which is apparently late. We got him to let Colton in. Had a couple beverages. Colton, me, Alex. What a nice time at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I don't know. I obviously like Prime 47 a lot. But we had a lovely time, lovely food. And that's how we capped off Iowa. I had a DNF, finished dead last, but I felt like a more fun participant and got to have a nice cocktail with Colton, nice cocktail with Alexander Rossi, and yeah, that was it. I had a wonderful time with Joseph. He was wearing his dad earplugs, and he was being respectful. So,
what do dad earplugs look like?
With like the rope that goes around the back of his neck, so you can take
the blue,
so you can
with
take
the
them
orange?
out and you can put them on your shoulders, and they're like the glasses that you have the rope attached to, so like they don't fall off. You know what I mean?
What a vibe! What a vibe! All right, I'm getting Joseph Wrangler blue jean shorts, New Balances, and OtterBox clip. That's gonna be we're gonna help him further along this new dad vibe. I can see it. I mean, he has that, like, it's like you get an old VHS camera, you would never know that you were not in the 90s probably with that type of vibe. But I'm glad they let Colton in the restaurant.
I was
thinking you were saying
I guess
they
he was on
locked
a different flight or something like that, and he had already eaten, but he just wanted to come join the boys for a beverage, and I got to respect Colton for doing that.
I was just like imagining they didn't let him in, and he's just like standing out of the window staring at y'all.
Everything.
Yeah. He's looking sad. He's looking around. That'd be a wild scene. Good for Colton.
It was quite a weekend. Quite a weekend. I did not expect my life to be going that way. So now, so in a 7-day period, I'm going to have done an IndyCar race. I'm going to have done a simulator day at the Toyota Sim, a full test day in a BMW GT3 car, a NASCAR truck race, and a NASCAR Xfinity race. So this might be the busiest.
A lot of practice.
Yeah, so this might be the busiest week I've had since May, but also just a wildly diverse week of motor racing activities. So we got a lot. We'll get to a little preview after our interviews, but I want to get to some great interviews with two drivers, two Penske drivers. What a surprise! People that we've talked to before, but you will not want to miss these conversations. They're fantastic. We appreciate these guys for jumping on with us. But with that, we'll get to Scott McLaughlin first, and then we'll roll right into Will Power after that, and then we'll come back for a little Toronto preview. We'll give you some podium picks. I had a decent weekend podium picks wise. I picked Will Power on day 2. I had 2 of the 3 out of day 1, so feeling pretty good about that. Let's see if we can keep the streak alive for Toronto. But yeah, with that, let's get to our interviews with Scott McLaughlin, winner of race 1, and Will Power, winner of race 2. Folks, we have a winner with us, a very, very successfully talented winner who has been on this show several times before, a man who is making a run for a championship, a man who is now an oval winner. To be honest, Scott McLaughlin, I actually thought you'd already won an oval. I don't know where I was, but I was like, wait a second, this is his first oval win? This guy wins all the time. Like, I was like, what's going on here? So
I lost a couple on the line there, man.
Yeah, he's got that oval dog in him now. Yeah, so that was a very funny realization. I thought I was going to do that first race that you won, ended up not, so I got to watch a lot of it. Great to see, honestly, night racing. I said earlier in the show that I love night racing. I think night racing, we should have that way more often. But, I mean, you guys were locked in. You guys seemed like Colton had a bit of a spin, probably helped a little bit because he was leading for a while, but you guys nailed it and felt good about the whole way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think what started it was qualifying. We knew that was going to be the case from testing as well.
Track record guy, no big deal.
Oh, that was nice. I didn't realize that at that time, but that was 2 solid laps, which were great. And I was cheering for Colton to go out again because it was getting hotter, and they were thinking about it, and they did it in the end. But ultimately, really really solid weekend. We nailed the pit stops on Saturday night. That was a massive team win there, and it was just about me just sort of controlling it from there. And then Sunday, I think we could have easily gone 2 for 2, but that yellow just right at the wrong time. I think with the pit stop and how that was all working out, we probably would have came out in front of Alex there. But it's all swings and roundabouts. It all happens, as you know. You win some, you lose some in terms of the cautions and when they fall. But really solid weekend, great points, and got our championship back on track for sure.
So race one, right? Obviously, there was a lot of speculation going into this weekend. Like, we don't really know how the race is going to go. Like, I watched the Highline practice, and like, you even spun in practice. Like, it was kind of wild. Like, there was some people trying to get adventurous on the track. But at what point in race one did you kind of realize, all right, this might be a strategic day. This might be we're going to have to take advantage of every restart possible to make any moves. Because I had noticed that once you guys caught the back of the field, and no one went anywhere. It was like the same distance between cars, sadly. But from how early did you kind of realize, hey, we're going to have to think our way forward here and use our pace at the exact right moments on in-laps and out-laps?
I was very early in that first race when you just felt the second lane go, and you just didn't really... You had 3 or 4 laps where I could run the top, and I was actually trying the top against Colton on a couple of restarts, but just couldn't quite get it to stick. And I was a little bummed by that because I thought, even in the Highline practice, that groove definitely works. Just unfortunately, when you get the bottom lane is just a little bit more alpha, and once you get 20 or 30 laps, even less than that, the whole field running it, the second lane's torched. So, and I think that's not an issue from IndyCar's perspective, honestly. Unfortunately, but we just need to figure a strategy when we can't just blame the track for repaving. Every track has to be repaved at some point.
Of course, yeah.
We have to figure out a strategy how we get around that with what package we bring to the tracks. And I know they're onto it, and it sucks that this is how it was, but we knew that once we got into the race, it was all about sort of overcutting and running a little bit longer than Colton if we could. I mean, the yellows in that first race fell. So it was just yellow flag pit stop. So it was really all up to my guys, and they just did a huge job and got it done. And the credit, the win to them, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge team effort. And you guys, I think more often than not, we always see when that little camera shot coming out of pit lane. It's like, oh, Scott's guys got him the lead right there. I mean, that's what sets the race apart. Everyone, and even Will Power talks about this too in our interview with him. But the team effort from Penske is so strong, and you guys in the pit lane, it's so important. And once you can control it, that's it.
Yeah, it's where a lot of the time is gained. I mean, we're stopped standing still, and we have to be, even half a second, 0.2 helps you massively out on track. And I think on the weekend, the stops from all 3 cars were fantastic. The team worked so hard on them. They're very serious about it. The competition between the 3 crews are massive. And you need that. You need that friendly rivalry and that intensity, because when you get into those yellow flag pit stops where the intensity is high, your heart rate's going, you need to be able to deliver, and thankfully they all did.
What do you think the physical effort was this weekend? Because we're going much faster. When you look at the race pace of years prior, where you fall down to the 22, 21 second lap time range, and now you're going way faster than that. Physically, I was surprised because I obviously just kind of got dumped into the deep end there. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is definitely faster, a little bit harder. But you guys did 2 races. So can you tell people, because I love trying to at least let people know some of the feelings that we can actually have, because it's impossible to reproduce. Yeah. But it's tough. The steering load and what we have to go through at this track for 2 races in the heat is a real challenge.
It's tough. The heat is probably the biggest thing. And then you've got the Gs as well, especially how fast it is now. I mean, we're doing sub 20 second lap times for 250 laps. It's wild. And it's a lot of Gs. I mean, to the point where my eyes, sometimes, you get watery eyes. I could just feel the tear going down, down the side of my face. In your face, you wouldn't like to see what a camera inside the helmet, I reckon, because it wouldn't look great. Your face would be all
I found my mouth was open most of the first stint, too. I was like, I think my face was falling off.
Yeah, big mouth breather guy. But no,
I'm trying to find oxygen.
Yeah. But it's definitely the steering loads and stuff. We noticed that at the test a couple of weeks ago, even with the softer, the other tires we had where they weren't degging, and you were doing, almost a second faster than what we were doing. That was I was like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be pretty physical. But, the way that the fuel race sort of played into it, and we weren't going into the corner probably as hard as we could have, definitely made it a little less physical. But the heat and the cabin was hot. is a lot to think about mentally. It's just so draining. Like you find your eyes that's why I think they water. Like you're just so strained from like concentrating. It's fun, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love short oval racing and IndyCar. I love it. Like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's absurd. It feels like you go through a battle, like like it's a war. Chase, go ahead, jump in here.
Yeah, Scotty, my man, congrats on the first oval win. That's huge. I know you've been gunning for it for a minute, and there was a lot. You had kind of an eventful weekend as far as like the media goes. One of the big things that I saw was your "Are We Live" clip.
Yeah,
that went out.
It's a good clip.
Did that play out? Did that play out the way that you had hoped? Like, did you stomp everybody that was on the crew? Yeah,
I think Dylan Walsh. There was a point there where he's like, thinking I needed to go to medical or something. But no, he was a good sport about it. But no, we saw this clip, and I got dared by my friend Brian Simpson to do it. And normally, like, if someone dares me to do something, like, I'll do it. Like I'm one of those people. So
fair.
Yeah, and I did it, and it went way better than I thought. I knew a lot of people wouldn't get it, but Josh Allen did it like the day before, and he's like, it actually looked pretty funny. So see if you can do it. And Dylan was
sold it.
Yeah, he was flipping out. I'm like wondering what the hell is going on, but thankfully I held a straight face and kept going. Just a bit of fun. Just a bit of fun.
You gotta have fun. Yeah. And like the big fun part of it too, like, so I saw where you give it a shout out to Ryan Blaney as well, and him winning there at Iowa, the first NASCAR Cup race back. He got to eat corn. Did you get to eat corn? Was my big question. I feel like everyone that wins there should get to eat an ear of corn.
I actually had corn before the race Saturday. That was part of it. Yeah, legit. I had steak, brown rice, and corn, and I had that before the race. So
smart.
I didn't have it on Sunday, and the yellow fell the wrong time, so maybe that was on my own thing. But me and Blaney, we're corn brothers now. So it's
that's it.
Yeah,
the corn dog.
Yeah, and we sat on a tractor and got the whole tractor thing, and it was pretty cool. I don't know whether I get to keep that thing. Like they said, you get
tractor.
A photo. Yeah, like
you want a tractor?
No, I don't know if I want a tractor. We got a photo with this tractor, and I'm like, do I get to keep this thing? Like what's the deal? Imagine just rocking up.
Tractor would be sick.
I'm in the middle of Charlotte in just a neighborhood. I just rock up with this John Deere and just sit out the front. It'd be crazy.
Dude, drive it to the store, bro.
Yeah,
like every weekend.
Yeah, no, I'll probably
you're about to be a dad, dude. Like, dad's got to have a cool tractor. You know what I mean? You got to mow the lawn, got to do some stuff. I mean, dad life sounds like tractor life as well. You never know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, get you a bucket hat too now. Yeah. I got to get a bucket hat. I'm a dad. You're a dad. We're just gonna start this bucket hat crew thing going on. And he was talking about Joseph out at the race earlier on the episode about how he had the dad vibes going strong, and I was like, we've got to get. I feel like as a collective, we have to get jorts, New Balances, high white crew socks, OtterBox cases for belt loops.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. I'm a big White Sox, but very high ankles guy these days now.
You did some stroller shopping, I noticed recently. Did you find the ideal stroller?
Yes. I believe we
found the good one.
Yeah, I think we're in the range. We haven't pulled the trigger on one of the travel ones that we're meant to get, but we're taking a lot of advice from people, and actually started building the nursery right now. So that's all. It's all happening. I've actually had to sell a couple of things to make room. So this is my room now that we're in. Like I'm allowed this little racing room, and then everything else is like for the daughter and the wife. So
congrats on your doghouse, dude. I mean, that's what matters most.
I had to get rid of the race simulator though. Like, so I'm
really?
I'm not an iRacing guy anymore. That's gone. Yeah. I've officially retired from iRacing. Yes, that is correct.
Wow.
Yeah. That's big development. That's breaking news for you guys.
You're good at that.
I'm going to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
That's what we'll see how that goes.
But I'm a big Call of Duty guy now. Like, you should see my gaming setup right now is top notch. I just built myself a brand new computer. Like, it was unreal. So I'm
got to drop
in. Yeah.
I love
PC
that.
Gamer.
PC, Yep.
All right. I was going to ask too, with you becoming a dad and all, are you going to be a tool of dad? Do you even know what that is?
No. What's that?
What is that?
All right, you know the baby carriers?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna run the front, the baby on the front. Yeah.
Let's go,
big. I've already looked at. There's like these strollers that you can put your golf clubs in. So I take them out. I'll take her out onto the course, and get my 5-iron out, just rip it, and she'll be pumped.
That's gonna be an epic photo right there.
Yeah.
Just baby golf clubs. You're just in your backswing, dude. Like
100%.
that's the shot.
Oh,
I
it is.
respect
It is.
that.
Trust me. It is. Trust me. Yep.
So real quick, back to race 2. Obviously, race 1, confident win. But you're getting ready to go for a race 2. Race 2, obviously, there was a bit more that went on. Maybe a little bit, some activities, some pretty kind of like dead in the water center of the race. I didn't really watch because I was kind of like, I was in the pits and then my blew up. My thing blew up, but I like at the beginning, I did think you could run the high lane for like 3 laps or like 4 laps, and then I was trying to figure out the hybrid. But was there a way that you thought it was going to be any way other than like 100 laps and try to get all the way to the end of the fuel load and make something happen? Or was there any moments in the race where all of a sudden the track widened out for you at all more than you thought? Because I thought there was on the second restart or the first restart, I guess I saw some cars running side by side slightly longer than I expected.
Yeah.
But it quickly went away. Did you have that same experience as well? Were you able to make up some progress there?
Yeah, I had a couple of lap cars between me and the leaders, so I had to pass them. I think I got 3 or 4 people on the outside. And for sure that was working. I definitely think the bottom lane opened up in race 2, more than it did on Saturday. I noticed Ericsson, he's very good at like a wide entry and then trying to get a run on people, and he was making moves by doing that. But he also didn't have to save as much fuel as we did as well at that point. So there's a little bit of tit for tat there. But, I got to the point we talked about before, the reason I spun on Friday was because I tried to adventure up the racetrack after, a long green flag run. I just wasn't prepared to risk that. In the position I was very happy in third and just taking what I could get, which sucked a little bit. But someone like Marcus, who had a bit more to risk, he actually made it work. So I think definitely that bottom lane was more workable on Sunday. But yeah, I think for me, like that's where we've got to figure something out. Is like, how do we get that second lane to work in 100 laps? Because it works. Like it works in like the first 4 or 5 laps, especially during the race.
And it's enjoyable. It
is. It works really good. But how do we keep it? Like and whether that is a compound on the track, like a PJ1 type thing? Is that something that we can work with Firestone on? Something we can't. Like I said to you before earlier in the podcast, like we can't just go and be like, oh, it's a repave, we're going to be bottom lane, it sucks. Like, we got to have some sort of, like, strategy to be able to go, okay, well, this is what we did last time. Do we put a heap of downforce on with big deg and stuff like that? And then, it allows us to be a bit more confident where we put the car. I just think we're too light on downforce. So that's probably the biggest thing for me. And it's very hard to attack the cars around you with confidence, especially when the lanes get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, because I think in the Iowa of old, right, even after a few laps, you'd see the track kind of start to widen out, and you almost have more confidence to be able to, like, let's say the car turns in front of you, they take bottom lane, you're just going to slide to the top because you know you're going to get caught by the grip eventually. Yeah. But now it's just, maybe it is a tire deg thing. Maybe it is whatever the particles that are coming off the tire, maybe they're so fine that it's just a little bit different. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer. And I do believe that I believe that we can get a package. I think there needs to be some serious testing that's done. Yes. Maybe IndyCar has to spend the money. We have to do it just to be like, hey, if we go out there for a day and a night to figure out, hey, we're going to find a compound that helps us run with these cars side by side. Now, it's going to be hard, but I hope we can find something.
Like 80, 90 laps in. Because our problem isn't at the start of the race. We can run side by side. It's just, it just builds and builds and builds. Like the old race, like you still took a little bit of time before that outside lane worked. But we were able to get up there because the pace was a little slower. I mean, we're doing like 20, 21 second lap times, like 2 or 3 seconds slower. So like it definitely made a difference. I think it is a package that I think we can get this to work. I really do. And I'm worried about like, somewhere like Gateway or even Milwaukee and stuff like that, where it's going to be very similar if we don't sort of try and find a remedy. It might be hard to make a remedy this year. I don't know. But like you said, I think going and testing, like putting the money in to sacrifice, like just to have an understanding of, all right, this, and that, I commend IndyCar. Like they changed the tire beforehand. They changed the downforce levels. They try to do the high line. Like they are trying. It's just it might be a little bit more than we all think to get it going.
Yeah. So I've heard at maybe the hybrid boost was really almost ineffective at Iowa. But I heard, I was trying to talk to a few people that maybe at Milwaukee, maybe at St. Louis, it might be a little bit better. Is that something that we maybe could look forward to, is having the hybrid play a little bit better of an element into overtaking? Or is it still kind of, if you're using it to attack, the guy in front of you is using it to defend type thing?
Well, ultimately, both those races at Milwaukee and Gateway, we're going to be able to brake and probably use the regeneration a lot more. Iowa was just a bit of a hard one because it's kind of like Indy, where it's like, you're really hardly off the gas. It's very quick, so it's hard to regen the power that you need. And when you are deploying, it's not a huge gain. But it is a gain, but it's not a huge one. I think we'll see a big chance. I think from the testing that we've done there already at Milwaukee and Gateway, from what I've heard, like you have, I think it is going to be usable. I think it's going to be interesting where people use it. And it's going to come into play a little bit more. But yeah, it's what are we, like a month in, 2 months in of this hybrid thing? Yeah. Like we've got to just pump the brakes and just realize, like, we're just trying to get through the season here. And I think they've done a really good job integrating into the sport. But like, I think there's a lot more to come with this. It's fun to drive. It's fun to use. It's fun to drive at Toronto, or I just was on the sim this morning, like playing around with it. It's fun to drive at Meadow High. It's a nice element to have, especially on a road and street course. Once we get it working on an oval and stuff, it's going to be even cooler.
I hope so. Let's talk about the Post Malone concert. What did we think about it after the race? Kind of nice to be able to just relax with the boys, with everyone, and just see Post Malone.
I was sweaty. I was sweaty.
Yeah, you could see it through your shirt too, because it was yellow. So it's definitely a tough look.
Yeah, it was a tough look, but I respected like the commitment to the 33s for myself.
It's a great shirt. It's a great shirt.
It's my favorite shirt. You can still get them on at the shop, boys. Like it's just like shameless plug. Grab one. No, it was great. I thought Post was great. I thought the concerts were awesome. It's just so hot, man.
Oh,
it's so hot. Like I commend those race fans, man. Like I
commend the people playing the music too, because
absolutely, I mean,
we should have got them cool suits.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like Post was, he had a cool shirt. He had like an Iowa shirt on. I thought he brought plenty of good vibes. He was actually the only concert I actually got to see, apart from here, and so it was good. But I was on the outskirts. I could have gone where you guys went. I think, did you go in that little VIP section?
Yeah, we tried to go right to the center.
Too hot, bro. Too hot. I was on the outskirts, just hanging out with a beer, and I got one of those vodka lemonade slushy things.
Those were wild. They were passing around those things.
I grabbed one of those. That was a great drink. Real good drink. Yeah.
Gave it a run.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out Hy-Vee for making maybe a couple of nice cocktails for everyone.
Yeah. Shout out to a couple of good cocktails for sure.
Yeah. That's the real ones. I hear they're going to get icy machines next year. They're going to have portable icy machines.
Oh yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. At all.
I mean, that was a rumor. It would be cool if they did.
Hey, they're receptive to feedback. I had a great chat with them on the weekend. They're good supporters of us. Amazing supporters. It's the money that they've spent on like the concert acts, it's hard. How do you beat it? But they're working hard to beat it again, and that's all you can ask.
We got to have Taylor Swift next year. I feel like the only way they can get bigger is having Taylor Swift at the IndyCar event.
Taylor Swift's dad goes to race. I saw Taylor Swift's dad at a race.
Yeah, I met him this year. He's a nice guy. He was a nice guy at St. Pete. He was at that race, but Taylor would be unreal. I'd be all up in that.
That'd be a big one.
Yeah.
I would just want to have a beer with Travis Kelce, because that guy's awesome too.
Unreal. I think him at a racetrack, he just fits the IndyCar vibe, no doubt.
Oh yeah,
no.
Yeah.
Get him in the two-seater. That's what I want to see. I want to see Post in the two-seater.
He might try. That's the thing with the two-seater. It's like, it's hard to fit some of these big athletes, man. Like it's but we'll get him waving the flag or something.
Cap?
Yeah.
Some sort of flag. What's the height cap on the two-seater?
I don't know. Actually, it's like Kawhi Leonard did it. Like, so he got in there, but he's maybe narrower than like
Travis
some of the football
is tall
players.
and just wide.
Just a big dude. Yeah.
He's like two of me.
Yeah.
He's a bulky dude.
Yeah.
Kawhi getting in there though, that's impressive, dude. That's like knees hanging out car.
Oh yeah,
almost.
He fit in there. They got
his
him in
hands
there.
are as big as my head. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's real.
So Scott, looking ahead real quick to Toronto, obviously no time off. We've had a lot of kind of races back to back here, and pit lane is tight. Toronto. I think I'm hoping to see. I actually think this will be the first track where we will see, I guess, the hybrid effect of it's going to be slower, because Mid-Ohio obviously was a new surface, so it camouflaged a little bit about like, hey, the cars are heavier by a lot. And Iowa was a new surface, so, oh boy, we're going real fast. But I think now you're going to have the realization of like, all right, it's probably a bit slower. So, I mean, do you think it's going to lead to a good race though? Like I'm obviously we have to be optimistic about it, but tight pit lane, difficult to kind of time your pit stops right. It's if you happen to get clear track at the right time, you can make up a lot of spots. But obviously a really long straight for overtaking. So what's kind of our Toronto outlook here?
I think tire wear is back in a big way. So
okay, good.
With the heavier car, these tires were ultimately built for the hybrid. So, we already noticed it at Mid-Ohio, even with a very smooth, nice surface, there was deg. People were graining tires, people were graining their reds, and there was a definite choice what you wanted to do. Okay, do we double set do we run a double on the reds, or do we just make it an all black race? And ultimately, I think you'll see that a lot more at a place like Toronto. That's already big deg. These tires are gonna drop off at certain spots, so it's all going to be about controlling that. So I think we'll see a really good race because of that. I agree. I think it's going to be a little bit slower, just how it is right now and how we're looking after the MG units and stuff, and the amount of power we're putting out of them. But as long as we put on a good race, I don't think anyone cares about the lap times, right? So I think if we have tire wear and we have degradation and there's a definite undercut, overcut, whatever you want to call it, I think we'll have a good race. But it'd be I think it's going to be a typical IndyCar race. You could qualify 23rd and you could win the race. It's just one of those deals.
I love that. I mean, I think that's going to be great to see. Scott, do you have any plans for the? We're going to have a bit of a break for the Olympics. There's going to be a little time off. Do you have any scheduled plans? Any exciting activities? Your wife's probably going to be getting close to, hey, we're having a baby. Yeah. But we have any exciting activities planned for some time off?
Yeah, I do. I can't say it on here, unfortunately, because a couple of surprises going on for a few buddies. But
he's racing tractors.
No, I am going. I'm going on a trip somewhere, but I can't see much more. But I'm going by myself, so with my golf club. So my wife is very understanding about everything. She's a superstar, to be honest. Superstar. And she lets me get away with everything. So it's she's very, very, very good to me, and I'm excited to go on my little trip. But she's probably going to go to New York and hang out with her family. And my sister-in-law is actually going to be due for her baby in the Toronto weekend. So, so we're probably going to be busy being auntie and uncle and then preparing to be mum and dad as well.
I like that. I love that. Well, Scott, thank you so much, dude. Great job again. Great weekend for you guys. Lots of trophies for the Thirsty Threes. Great group of people over there. It was nice to see you. I didn't see you at all on the racetrack, but I assumed that you were in front of me, so that's probably what was happening. Yeah,
it's always good to see you in a suit, Nick. Connor. It's always good to see you back in it. Even though a big shout out to Jack Harvey. I couldn't imagine what he went through pain wise to basically make himself get out of the seat. That's hard.
That's tough, dude. We definitely think about Jack. But yeah, man, great work, and I'm sure that we have a high potential to interact with you again on this show.
I love our interactions.
It's always a great time, Scott. Yeah. So thank you so much, my friend.
No worries. Thanks, boys. You have a safe one. Good one.
Well, we're going NASCAR racing this weekend, baby. Heck
yeah. Good luck. Good luck. Run the cush.
Yeah, we're going to get up there on the Indy cushion. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Use your home track advantage. I'm sure it's going to work in one of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait to watch. All right, pal.
Thank you, buddy.
Cheers.
All right. Well, we appreciate Scotty Mack, Scott McLaughlin, for chatting with us. Really, really enjoy chatting with him. I think he gives a great perspective on a lot of things, great personality. And it was a Penske dominant weekend. So Chase, what do you think? Let's roll right into Will Power, winner of race 2, his teammate, and we'll see what he has to say. And then we'll come back again once we come back from Will Power. We'll wrap up the week. We'll look ahead to my NASCAR week in front of me, and then also give a couple picks for the Honda Indy Toronto race this weekend for IndyCar.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our second interview of the show. We've got the winner of race 2 at Iowa, a man who apparently hasn't won an oval in a while, which is astounding to think about. But Will Power's having a strong year. This is our second time getting to interview you, Will, so things are going great. We're having a nice time. How are you feeling after 2 races at Iowa, which I thought, since I got to dabble a little bit in it, it was a physical challenge. It was Iowa's hard. Cars are going faster. Maybe not as much racing, obviously, but the physical load was quite a lot. So are we relaxing now this week for a couple days?
Yeah, a couple of days of rest. Although I'm on the simulator today, so not too much rest. But yeah, it was physical, especially because you race Saturday night and then you don't necessarily sleep that well. You kind of debrief till 11 at night, and then you're up pretty early the next day doing install and racing sort of before noon. So a couple of physical races, but the cool suit helps, getting some air in the car helps, but a win helps more than anything to feel good after a race.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously after race 1, it felt like completely different situation, race 1, and then race 2, people kind of figured out, okay, we're going to go as long as we can go on these tires. Like we're going to finally at Iowa extend the fuel stint all the way till you run out of fuel. And essentially that was your ticket, right? Like you guys played that strategy the best. Was that something that you guys were going to immediately play into after race 1, or was that kind of like because your tires were working still fine, you were just going to go for it?
No, I was doing that in race 1, but the yellows fell right before, like in the window, basically. So doing exactly the same thing. I just never got the chance to execute that. So going to the second race, starting way back where I was like, as soon as this settles out, I am just absolutely in maximum fuel save. I actually lost a position because I went too soon, and Stingray got me back, but it really didn't matter at that point. Like I just sat in that train and saved as much as I could. And as the sequence was happening, switched the fuel up and then started closing those gaps, hoping to jump a lot of people just through the sequence. We did hope for a yellow because we knew that the chance of a yellow was going to be much higher during those sequences, just by the fact that there isn't a second lane. People come out and you've got to make a decision. Do I go on the outside or not?
Yeah.
And wash up and potentially get in the wall. So yeah, there were many reasons to go long. And certainly getting a yellow was a big one. So then, I saw Canapino spin and it stayed green. I'm like, did he not stall? And I come around the next lap, he's still there, it's still green, he's still there.
I said the same thing. I was like, well, there's a car on, parked.
Which was surprising to me. So I just kept pushing because if it wasn't going to go yellow, I was still going to have a very good sequence to jump a few cars. And I was hoping to end up in the top 10 at the end of the race. That would have been a good day for me, but catching that yellow, very nice, which I will take another 10 of those yellows, considering the yellows that have caught me out over the years. And even this year at Long Beach, I was leading by 7 seconds and caught a yellow. So I'll take a lucky yellow all day.
Absolutely. No, that's part of the game, right? Part of the game.
Yeah.
Now, okay, a lot of people were talking this weekend about the new surface at Iowa. Obviously, the race changed drastically, and it was a shame for sure. I think we've seen a lot of great racing at Iowa over the years. We've seen some great overtaking numbers, but tell people, I guess, what you thought. Obviously, I got to experience only a little bit of it, but the way the tires were either shedding bits of debris or whether the marbles that were coming off the car, getting into the second lane, tell people kind of what you thought. Like if you tried to go half a wing's worth up just to maybe get a run, how much of a penalty that would be because of already how hard it is to pass. I mean, because I try to express to people like, we would love to try to make a move on someone, but if you happen to go up there, not only is all the work that you just did completely gone, but you have to spend the next half of the race trying to make the positions back that you might have lost by trying to sneak up half a car length and get a run on someone.
Yeah, it was just never, like in my mind, starting both those races after testing there and understanding that you cannot put an inch into the dirty part of the track, which you actually can't see. They weren't marbles, more of a dusty
It's not
deal.
A visual thing.
Yeah, you couldn't see it, so I kept low all day. I never, ever put myself in that risky situation. And, it's, the chances are that you'd make it to the wall, you get contact, and your day's over if you tried to go on the second lane. But I will say, after the restart of that yellow, which put me in second, I had 2 lapped cars behind me. I had Ericsson, I had Lundgaard and Ericsson. Those guys did pass, and I saw Ericsson was able to run. The second lane did start to come for half the corner in turn 1-2, so he was making that work and getting runs. He was able to run, then cross my wake and get a big run out. So it was coming, and restarts helped that because people run the second lane. I just think, after the first race, people saw, wow, a lot of, on these restarts, Newgarden made 6 spots and Santino drove from sort of 16th up to 6th. So, and by running the outside, so there was more of that the second day. So there was more of a lane coming in. It just was a matter of people running there. And that is a thing that would make that race great. Honestly, I think Firestone need to come with even a softer tyre, like quite a softer tyre with DEG, which gives you more confidence to go up top early and then people degrade enough where you go around the outside because they've got no grip on the bottom and roll around them. It's such a, you got to find that good combination of downforce, grip, downforce, tyre compound. And the weight is a thing that's just hurting us a lot right now. Like that's why we can't add downforce. You add downforce, the load gets too high in the corner because of the weight, and you get blistering or tire failures. You just can't. They can't handle it. Need to knock. And they get a new car, man. They got to really focus on weight. They really do. I mean, it's just at least 100 pounds too heavy.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a moment, like at the start of the second race, I was last, so like I went straight to the top, and it was much cleaner and better than I expected. But I think if it could have stayed like that the whole time, I think you would have seen more people use it. But yeah, if you snuck up there at all, it's just like ice. And yes, restarts for sure. They did a great job sweeping the track. But is it like, I think people were giving Iowa a lot of grief about it, but is there a package you think the IndyCar can find that would race well with this new repave?
Yes, I do think so. And I think the first step is a much softer tire that does degrade. Does that allow it to run a bit more downforce as well, because the tire sheds rubber and doesn't create, that shedding rubber sheds heat. The heat is what causes a blister. And what I will say is I had a tire failure there in testing, and the sidewall ripped from the actual sidewall ripped from the belt of the tire. That wasn't actual heat. That was just load. I was doing a stint doing 17.9, 17.8 the whole stint.
That's crazy.
It's just, and that was just too much load for the tire. But honestly, if they'd left the downforce level that we had at the test, I think in the race, everything just slows down. You got 27 cars on track anyway, and you're in dirty air. So you're just not doing, 50 laps loaded as all get out at these quick lap times. It's a pity because it was such a great racetrack, but I still feel like even with the package we had, if people had just stayed up there you would have had a second lane. You would have had a much better race.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to give people perspective, right? Like on the old Iowa, you'd fall into race pace wise. You might even get down to the 21-second, 22-second lap times. And
Big
like
time.
this time, a slow race pace was like 19.4. Like you're at,
Yes.
you're doing mid-19s, kind of mid-pack. And so it's a much faster car overall. Chase, I'll let you get in here.
Yeah, Will, congrats on the dub. 5 years, man. It's 5 years of getting back out in action. So we're happy to see it. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, the underdog status maybe of this race. I don't know if you knew or not, but you were 400-1 to win this race.
Oh,
did you feel as big of an underdog as Vegas may have felt that you were going into that race?
I did not expect. Going into it, I was starting 22nd. I knew from the day before there simply is no passing here. Like once it settles out, you've got what you got. Your only game is to save fuel big time and go longer than people. So see how many people you can get in a sequence. If you catch a lucky yellow, well, yeah, you're looking real good. But yep, I certainly didn't think going into it that I was going to win that race myself. But I did have in the back of my mind, you can get those yellow. Like you could get a yellow if you in those sequences, that is the most likely time for a yellow to happen. So it was a surprise, but knowing IndyCar, it wasn't.
So
I've been around long enough to know this game that you never know what's going to happen. You're never out of the game in this series, which is a great thing. So. Yeah, I wish I'd just put some money on myself. I mean, geez.
Well, that's illegal, so yeah.
Yeah. He's
it is illegal?
Get another one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm
Definitely
not a
can't
bet.
bet
I never gamble. I
Yeah,
don't
I know.
bet, so I don't
He
even
didn't
know
even
the
know.
rules.
I had to
You
let
can't,
him know that Vegas was sleeping on this man.
Can
You know
your
what I
wife
mean?
put money down? Is that a thing?
No.
Is that illegal?
Might be.
So put
might be.
10,000.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
Let's
I
just
didn't
talk
realize. Yeah, so that's illegal. Oh my god.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
illegal, but
Chase
it's all
can.
good. You don't know.
Chase can. Yeah, Chase is
Yeah.
all over it.
I just want to say too. I mean, luck is the big thing, right? Like, I mean, you don't know if those cautions are going to come. I mean, you come in it, you waiting. I believe you just kind of waited, kind of cycled up towards the top, and then the yellow came. But it takes synergy to make some of these calls sometimes. And I guess that's the next question I wanted to ask you is, it's not just you at the track in the weekends. You have your crew as well, your team. What is the relationship like with your pit crew? Do you guys hang out? Do y'all do anything? Party together?
Winners of the pit stop
what's the
competition
vibes
as
like?
well this weekend.
Yeah,
You guys won the pit stop competition.
Yeah,
Boom.
we won the pit stop competition. I'm very lucky. I have a very good group around me, a very good group. These guys are usually the quickest on pit lane every week. They won the last 2 years. They've won been quickest on pit lane over a whole season. So,
Wow.
they're the guys that win you races, 100%. Like when you look at it, when you look at the day before, Newgarden gained, I think, 7 spots just in the 2 yellow flag stops. Like that's huge. That's so hard to get on track. And I think at Team Pesky, we're lucky to have such good pit crews. All 3 of them are fantastic, but mine in particular, great group of guys, very positive. Love them all, and we do hang out. Do have well, I don't drink, but they drink and enjoy it. But
Shout
out. And the engineer, the strategist, it's a very good, tight-knit group. I think we're firing on all cylinders, and I think they feed a lot off the driver's attitude. They don't want to hear, someone bitching on the radio, complaining, or, you got to be positive, and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have up and downs, and, we lose as a team if it's a mistake in the pits or a mistake on track. It's a group, and I'm for all the great stops they give me. I'm never mad if something happens in the pits because I'm just lucky to have a group like that. As you see every week on pit lane, it makes and breaks races. It's really a very, very key component of this sport, and that's what it is. It's a sport. It's a team sport. You will not win without a team.
Absolutely. Shout out to the pit dogs everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, it's big time.
Will, this is an interesting one. Obviously, we're used to the last few years. Joseph has been so dominant at Iowa. Like, he has been, I mean, the class of the field multiple times, right? And you're his teammate. So what was different this year? I mean, Joseph qualified at the back for both races, essentially. Why do you think that was such a change for you guys, or for him as a driver himself? Because obviously, Scott won, you won. Joseph did make it to the podium, race one. But it, like previous years, we've seen Joseph run away with this race. What do you think was the difference this year? Is it the way the car is now balanced? Does it not suit his style as much, you think?
It was, yes, it was a track change that made the biggest difference. Which changed the setup significantly on the cars. I think Joseph's big strength was how good he was in traffic. And you took that whole factor out. You just sat in line and saved fuel. He was great on restarts because that's, he's very good at that. But trying to beat him on the old track you'd be just as fast as him. But once you got to those groups of cars, he would just pick through them so well. He would pick the right place to be. He could place his car so well. And that was taken away. Normally, even if he qualified bad, you'd expect to see Joseph at the front, but he didn't have the chance to do that. So, it was just like a lot about qualifying, and then it was a lot about the pit stop sequence of saving fuel, which, you're much more even with him on those, on those disciplines. But yeah, I mean, he's won every oval for the past 2 years, except if, he had a crash or something failed. He's been the guy. So yeah, a bit of a switch, but you can expect him to be good everywhere. I mean, it's good to learn off him, It's good to learn off a guy that's so good at that discipline. But yeah, it's funny when things change a bit. It mixes it up, and everyone. I noticed that early in my career when I was dominating on road and street courses. Everyone catches up, everyone learns from you, and then they'll better you, and you've got to respond. So. It's a tough group of drivers in here, and no one's just sitting at home just expecting to win. It's hard work, and when you win a race in this series, you've done a bloody good job because you're beating the best in the world. Like everyone through the whole field. There's not a bad driver in there. So it's such a satisfying series to be in, and very enjoyable.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Will, we saw you at the Post Malone concert afterwards. What did we think of that? You and your wife were at the Post Malone concert. What did we think? It was a little warm, but you were celebrating the race win with Post Malone.
It was, he's a great entertainer, a very good entertainer. I actually didn't realize how many songs of his that I actually knew. I don't want to say I'm old, but I'm not.
You're
not in my 20s. Vibe out to some Post.
Yeah.
Not in my 20s, but that was cool. What a great way to celebrate, You get to go out and go watch a top-level concert, top-level entertainer. But, yeah, enjoyed it. I just wish I could have got up on the drums, man. The drummer was sick. I was enjoying his drumming. Yeah, man, I love the drums, yeah.
Oh, yes. I did not know that about you. That's awesome.
Big drummer.
Yeah, no, I like it.
That guy went into a solo for a little bit. He ripped the drum solo.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was solid. He was having a good time. It seems like that Post Malone would be a pretty cool dude to be in a band with. So that's after my career. I might hit him up.
You probably should. Yeah, definitely slide into his DMs and see if he needs a little.
I'll do with Flavor Flav.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
You and Flavor Flav and Post Malone.
I was going to ask you about that. What's the status of the cruise? How's the Flavor Flav cruise coming along?
Yeah, no, that could happen. He's going to Australia to do a tour with Public Enemy. So maybe I'll go in October to Australia, go to one of his concerts, and then jump on the Virgin cruise. He gets a VIP treatment. So be there chilling. Flavor Flav. I never beef him to one, but there's not in a million years would you think in your mind in my 40s, I'll be hanging out with Flavor Flav on a cruise. Like, what's going on, man?
Well, your story about that last time was so awesome, but people
really
love that story.
That's what we're saying. We got to get updates every time. But this is personal message to Flavor Flav. On this tour, if Will gets out there, put this man on drums. I need video footage. We got to show the world the skills. I'm ready to see the skills.
Yeah, no, I don't know whether Public Enemy has drums. They got what's the DJ? It's an awesome
drum pad.
DJ.
You get the ones and twos.
Yeah, nice. What's his name? DJ. Oh, can't. It's one of the. Oh man, I feel embarrassed now.
Oh, it's all right. You'll get when you get there. They put you on stage. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, Will, real quick before we let you go, want to look ahead towards Toronto. Obviously, not a lot of time off here. Toronto, very difficult pit lane, very tight pit lane. Great track though overall. Feeling you guys have always been, quite good everywhere. But how are we feeling for Toronto in this hybrid era? Obviously, we haven't really. I would say Mid-Ohio and Iowa. Maybe we're. The new surface at Mid-Ohio was different, so you kind of camouflaged a little bit of what the hybrid did to the car. Iowa was so fast because of the new surface, and the hybrid really wasn't, I would say, that it didn't really make that massive of a difference. But do you think you're going to see something different in Toronto? You think it's going to be a better situation for overtaking with the hybrid system, or how are we feeling about it?
It's hard to say. Obviously the weight makes the braking zones longer. Which usually promotes a bit of passing. The weight also creates some degradation, which we didn't have at Mid-Ohio simply because it was resurfaced and looked after the tire really nicely. So I would expect higher degradation. The hybrid itself, it doesn't. Everyone's using it at the same spot. They all come to the same conclusion through simulation where it's most efficient to use. So it doesn't really add to passing. Toronto's, man, it can be a rough race. It's I've actually struggled for pace there over the last couple of years. I got a bit better last year, but I got to put a lot of focus and homework into understanding how to be quick there and try to have a good weekend, because that Palou and Scott McLaughlin in particular, even Scott Dixon is also, they're all very good around that track. So I'll be looking for trying to get in that top 6 if I can in qualifying.
What is it about Toronto, do you think, that doesn't suit your style? What do you think about that place that hasn't been the best for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I've noticed over the years that cement tracks have been tough for me. Long Beach, just in outright pace. But this year I was really good at Long Beach. I qualified second. Was really close to getting a pole there, and so just through working hard and understanding why I was better. Toronto's a tough one. You got the cement patches in the middle of the corners, so it takes us a certain technique to get all that right. I have a very smooth driving style. I don't like to just put tons of lock in and I know what you sort of somewhat overdrive the car a bit, I guess, but maybe that works well there, and maybe that's why on cement tracks where you've got to, attack a lot harder, that I have struggled a little bit in the past. But it's a very unique track, a very unique driving style, just because you go from grip to nothing, and then you go back onto grip. We'll see. I'm going on the sim today. I usually do a lot of homework beforehand and see if I can work out how to be quick there.
Nice. That's great. No, we appreciate that, honestly. I think people love hearing a little bit of technical talk on, like, hey, what do we do to get better? So that's really cool. But Will, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being on the show. Honestly, it's great to talk with you guys, and people really appreciate it. So good luck this weekend. I will not be there, but I will be watching. I hope it goes well for it. Hopefully it's a great race. I really hope we're in need of a good race with some good overtaking, and hopefully it's awesome.
Keep the momentum going.
Need something between Mid-Ohio and Detroit, like just in the middle there. So not as crazy, but something. As long as I'm not in all that mess, I'll just try to get up the front and away from it, or benefit from the mess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man.
You got it.
We'll probably talk to you again at some point this year. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope so. I
believe.
Yeah, you guys got it. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
brother.
Thank you, man.
Well, folks, that's our first multi-driver show, multi-IndyCar driver show, at least, I think. Appreciate Will Power's honesty. Love chatting with him. Love hearing his tech talk. He's a great guy. Loves racing in the IndyCar series. He's had an amazing career so far, and it's definitely not over yet. So,
and a drummer now. And we found out he's a drummer.
He's a drummer. He's always been a drummer. Will Power, the drummer. Love to see that. So anyway, great couple interviews, honestly. I enjoy talking with people. I know that we've had a couple of these guys on before. That was probably always going to be the way this partnership was going to go with IndyCar. We appreciate them getting us the winners. But this year, for sure, in this era, I remember one time not too long ago, the first 9 races were won by 9 different drivers, something crazy like that. And we have not had that this year. We have had more of a top team dominance, which can happen in motorsport. Like we've seen it in Formula One, we've seen it in NASCAR. These things can happen. So who knows? Maybe this week we'll get to talk to a new winner, but maybe the elite continue to be elite. And we talk with one of our guys again. But it's still great to talk about because you learn something new every week. So we appreciate those guys. Appreciate Scott. Appreciate Will. But we have a race weekend in front of us here. We've got Toronto, the Honda Indy Toronto. This weekend is solely on Peacock, from what I'm aware. So you will not see it on regular television. This will be all for the Peacock folks that really are passionate about Peacock, that they've mentioned after the Fox deal. They're very passionate about Peacock. So this is your weekend. So
cutting the cord.
Gonna be tough because honestly, it's a real sad stretch for IndyCar because obviously we got booted from NBC 2 races in a row and then straight to Peacock. So we've essentially been completely invisible for 2 full weeks in a row, which is a shame. But until Fox, we're waiting to get to the Fox deal. Hopefully it's a better situation than what we've had to go through during this summer stretch. But we'll see. So don't miss it on Peacock. There is a new driver in IndyCar this weekend. So Hunter McElroy, I'm not really sure exactly how you pronounce his last name. But Hunter McElroy.
3 syllables.
Yeah, maybe. But Hunter is in the Dale Coyne racing car. So let's talk a little bit about. A lot of people had asked, is Jack Harvey going to be okay for this weekend? Well, Jack actually was never scheduled to do Toronto. So if you saw his original schedule, this race was actually not on his calendar. So I believe you're going to see yet another driver announcement probably before the end of the week because I don't know exactly who's in the 51 car yet. We know Hunter McElroy is going to make his IndyCar debut. He's obviously been successful at Indy NXT. He's been racing some sports car stuff this year. So, hey, happy that any new driver gets a chance to get in there. Hunter's a good kid, very tall young fellow. But happy for Hunter to get a shot. Going to be a lot to learn for him, but he just tested recently at Mid-Ohio, so he's going to be in the car. Not entirely sure who's going to be in the next car, or the 51 car. So we shall see. But still, let's keep an eye on Jack's situation. Hopefully he's okay. Not sure if they're going to have to make a change for other races, but usually like that car as well, a lot of people have asked, there is a financial element every single time to these drivers getting in, and it does cost money. Like it could cost maybe a minimum of $150,000 to get in that Dale Coyne car for the weekend. This is complete speculation. It's usually 6 figures to drive an Indy car for a weekend. Like if you want to put a deal together, I'm hoping Dale gets at least that much because it costs. If you wanted to go to Andretti and say, at least back in the day, excuse me, if you do like a per race basis for IndyCar, it's about $350K per weekend. Some teams maybe $250K, but if you're wanting to run with the top team, it's probably $300,000 a weekend. So that is the cost if you're going to try to make something happen. And again, Dale is running a business, so Dale is going to have to get some funding in line for these rides. And again, I'm happy that these people who are getting in the Dale Coyne racing car are able to do it. I obviously, you never know, like maybe some drivers haven't done that. but kind of the going rate, like just to put it in perspective for what people kind of have to raise, or if there is a scenario that Dale's trying to make sure he doesn't lose his butt by, just lose a ton of money by doing the weekend. That's kind of what you might look at, just giving people honest numbers. It could be different, obviously. So Dale's going to kind of continue to have to raise money for these different races as the season goes on. I'm sure he's got a couple other races that he's confirmed for. Catherine Legg is doing the rest of the ovals, so she's going to be in that car for all the oval races we know of, or at least as far as I know of. And then we'll see what happens on the 18 car. But for right now, Hunter McElroy, good for him, new driver. So let's get to a couple picks maybe before we kind of preview my NASCAR weekend ahead. Goodness gracious, we're a NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go, I'll go first, Chase, if you want. I'll go first. We had a pretty good weekend of picks last weekend. Not going to lie. I had a pretty good weekend at least.
I went one out of three each race.
Okay. All right. Solid. I think for me, it's easy to pick Christian Lundgaard. He's obviously won there before. Christian Lundgaard is for sure going to be, for me. What is interesting though, which is it's a wild card, is the cars are going to be different, heavier, changes the balance. It changes everything about how the car works mechanically and grip production wise. But I have to go with Lundgaard only because of the statistics, only because of just statistics in general. So other than Christian Lundgaard, I'm just kind of looking through the drivers here now, and I'd love to pick, like, make a crazy pick. Like I'd love to say David Malukas, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say Colton Herta, Christian Lundgaard. I've gone with Colton so much, I almost don't want to pick him again. But I will.
Ride or die for Colton.
Ride or die with Colton. And do I go with a Penske? Maybe not this weekend. I'm gonna do a no Penske podium. I'm gonna go Colton Herta, Christian Lundgaard. And Roman Grosjean. I'm putting Roman Grosjean on the podium this weekend. I'm going way out of the bounds. I'm going all over the streets. It's going to be wild. I'm going to go a crazy podium. I'm thinking Grosjean slaps it up onto the podium. He's been right there. He's been in the top 10. He's been kind of flirting around with it. So that's what I'm going to go with. It's someone had to make a crazy pick at some point. This is just purely a picks show. This is a show where we are just making picks. We might make the wrong picks, but guess what? None of you are perfect either, unless you get real lucky. So go for it, Chase.
That's right. We're trusting the vibes. And speaking of the vibes, I think it's easy for me to go right into the direction of our most recent, I guess, road course winner, even though it's a street course, in the hybrid era. I'm going to go with Pato O'Ward.
All right.
So I want some Pato. Give me some Pato on podium, P on P. I'm going to go with my ride or die, which it seems like it's been Scott Dixon.
All right.
I'm going to go back with Dixon. Really just trying to see how the championship's going to shake out, So I know he's got a lot of work to do, especially after, I feel like the universe kind of owes it to him after his car basically just died before the race in Mid-Ohio. So I feel like that is it's important to look at. And then the other driver that I'm going to have to say for my pick, I'm going to actually go with a Penske driver, and I'm going to go with a guy that maybe didn't have the results he 100% wanted this past weekend in Iowa. I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden.
All right.
Has won in Toronto in the past. So, we'll see. He's got to get out there and he's got to get out there and sling it. So we'll see if Joseph can get up there. So Joseph, Pato, Scott Dixon, those are my podium picks for Toronto.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of take a wild swing at things at one point. A lot of people probably aren't going to be happy with that Grosjean pick, but if everything goes right, you could see old Grosjean up on the podium. I could see it happening. So
we're playing for keeps,
Yeah, we're just trying to throw out some excitement. We don't want to pick the same people every weekend purely because this is a fun show. So
absolutely, I love the challenge. I love the head-to-head challenge. I'm coming for the 3-3. Like I'm here for. I want to sweep.
I want to go 3 for 3. Yeah, someone's got to get a sweep at some point this year. That'd be cool. I feel like that'd be a cool deal.
Could see it. Could see it this weekend. We'll see.
All right, well, folks, I am doing a lot of racing this weekend. So if you want to follow what I'm doing, I'm going to do the NASCAR truck race on Friday night with Nice Motorsports. Very excited about it. I think this will be a lot of fun. Big learning experience for me. My first short oval in a stock car of any kind. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. It's a Friday night race. FS1. If you want to check it out, get used to running FS1 because we're going to have IndyCar practices and qualifyings on FS1. So you can find it. I promise it's not that hard. But you're going to be on there on track. Going to be doing the Xfinity race on Saturday. I don't know what the television info is for that. Maybe I'll try to look it up now.
Shouldn't it be on the CW? Maybe.
No, that's next year. That's next year.
A little preview.
No,
I'm just excited about the weekend, man. I mean, it's a huge weekend. I mean, in the NASCAR world, I mean, Brickyard 400, 30th anniversary back on the oval, man. And you getting to run this weekend at IRP and Xfinity, that's got to be exciting, dude. I mean, that's you're a part of that, man.
I'm fairly
very
sure
historic
it's on
weekend.
Yeah, they're on NBC now, I believe. So I'm fairly sure it'll be on either USA or NBC or some sort of NBC property on Saturday in the afternoon, like early afternoon. So we'll see what that looks like. It's on USA Network, producer Bobby says. So that's good. So check us out on USA Network on Saturday afternoon. But that'll be 3:30 Eastern, USA Network on Saturday. If you want to check out what I got going on, it'll be fun. Polka dot car for the Saturday race, Power Plus car for the Friday night race. I'm excited. A lot of learning. I'm going to be in a BMW GT3 car as well on Thursday, testing. So I'm going to go to Charlotte tonight as well. So we're on the move. We're making things happen. The show goes on, though. We're going to have a very exciting week next week. Boy, are we going to have a ton to talk about. I kind of want to do I wonder if Xfinity Series will get me like the winner of the Xfinity race too, or something like that.
That would be
maybe I'll
sick.
talk to those guys and say, hey, I want the winner of the IndyCar race, but I also want the winner of the race that I participated in on Saturday. That would be kind of fun, maybe. We'll see if we can get that done.
That would be big. I was going to say, I was going to go out and be like, are you going to be able to put a Speed Street sticker on the bumper of the truck or the car? Like maybe slap a little Speed Street on there.
Well, we shall see. Anyway, so that's what we got coming up. Very excited about it. Thank you all for listening yet again. We're going to get to a wonderful segment that we all love. And that's called the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
This week, we went into the olden days. I am going to check and make sure that this driver that I have selected is not on our list, but we went to 1937.
Oh,
1937.
Great year.
And I'm going to try to learn something about someone here. I'm going to try to learn something. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to see if we've actually used this person before. We have a very extensive list now. Actually, this name might not have ever been used. That's really interesting. All right. This is a new one. So, the 24th place finisher in the 1937 Indy 500 won by Wilbur Shaw is Frank Wern. Frank Wern with an E. Let's see. American race car driver. So, Frank Bardwell Wern was an American race car driver. Grew up in Altadena, California. Looks like he had several Indy 500s to his resume. He began his racing career in roadsters on the Jeffries Ranch track in Burbank. Didn't know that existed. Moved on to a race at Culver City Legion Speedway dirt track. Legion Ascot Speedway after Ascot closed. Wern raced successfully in the Pacific Northwest. An Indy 500 specialist, 7-time Indy 500 starter with a best finish of 7th in 1940. Very interesting. So 1937 was we found his rookie year. So that's kind of cool. 1937, 38, 9, 40, 41. Then he had a 5-year break. Obviously, there was a war going on as well.
The Spanish Civil War.
What? In the 1940s? I think that was World War II.
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot going on. Had a ton
going on there. But 1941 was his last one. Then 1946, 47. So 47 was his last Indy 500. Pretty wild. After retiring from racing, he worked at a brewery for 20 years. That's impressive. Impressive.
He was a kind of a hops guy.
Yeah, he was into the hops.
That was huge. I mean, 37 was a big year. They discovered vitamin C that year. I don't know if you knew that. They discovered vitamin C in the Golden Gate Bridge. It was also built. So he was over in Burbank. I mean, I don't know if he could have took a drive. I'm sure he got to see it. He might have been one of the first people to go over it.
Maybe. That's a good point. That's interesting. Well, anyway, Frank Wern. Frank Wern is our random Indy 500 driver of the week this week. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube.
Yes.
And turn your notifications on as well on YouTube. I see a lot of people watching the videos that might not be subscribed. Subscribe to the channel. It just helps us get out there. I appreciate all you folks. Thanks for tuning in. Iowa was quite a weekend. I love being an IndyCar driver, honestly. It makes my heart happy every time I can get in an IndyCar. I so badly wish I could do more racing and get the results that I believe I can get. I also found out, this was a funny note before we finish, and probably everyone's already clicked off the episode by now. I found that the haters always still come back. So I had an engine failure, right? And I had a guy that tweeted me after a response to a video. Oh, still finished in last place no matter what. And I'm like, there are people that are so stupid in this world that even if mechanical failure that is in no way what I could control, he's like, finishing in last place as usual is me. I'm like, dude, I actually don't remember the last time I finished in last place. Like that's an alternate reality. So remember that we as drivers are every single day receiving terrible messages from people who don't know what earth like they're living on. That they don't exist on the same planet that we do. So hopefully you guys don't have to interact with them. I find it hilarious that's what this person decided to comment, as if I blew up. I blew a hole in the engine or whatever was wrong myself. I went in there with a blowtorch and a hammer, and I did it myself. So
you were just a little tired. You were ready to get out,
So shout out to the people that don't live on Earth. Shout out to the people that live in their own weird stratosphere that I can't understand how you can comprehend reality at that level of stupidity. So anyway, that was a fun story that I wanted to share to end the podcast. Shout out to the haters. They're always there. And no matter what you think we experience, always know that it's worse than you expect drivers to take a tax every day. So that's what we have to deal with. And anyway, on that note, we appreciate those who are living in reality and live on the planet Earth. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being fans of the sport. And we will see you next week on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.